from everlasting to everlasting. Thou art Yah, thou art Yah, from everlasting to everlasting. Thou art Yah, from everlasting to everlasting. Thou art Yah. Beginning, wherever the earth was, you were there. You were there. You had creation in the palm of your hand. Sun, stars, heaven above and earth below. The winds blow. A humble servant you have made in me. A humble servant you have made in me. And my only desire is to follow thee
Hallelujah. I want to say Shabbat Shalom to you all, Mashpachai. It is wonderful to be here on this Shabbat. This is the day that Yahuwah has made. We are going to rejoice and we are going to be glad in it. And in the meantime, we're also going to give praise to Yahuwah, Halalhu Yahuwah, because he alone truly deserves our praise. It is great to see each and every one of you here today, and it is great to have those of you listening via Facebook and YouTube and right here on Fuse. Mashbaka, missed you, and glad to see each and every one of you. Looking forward to getting into Yahuwah's word today. Excited about our subject for today. But before we do that, we're going to go to another song or two, family. And so I'll be seeing you shortly. Shabbat Shalom. Halalhu Yahuwah.
Can our son lead a normal life?
Israel, this is it. Deuteronomy 28 verse 68. And the Most High shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I speak unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. Egypt? Yeah, man. This is talking about the spiritual Egypt, America, the house of bondage.
Oh, that's how our Western journey began.
Yeah, man.
Israel gone captivity for breaking your law. We were driven out of Israel by the Roman Empire. Seek some refuge in our West Africa. Then the Arab and the Amite soldiers to Esau. They focus on the slave ship to America. Enslave us, fire on the slave master. But the scripture said, you must be a fierce slaughters for the iniquities of your forefathers. Chibababa.
Your love is beautiful.
So beautiful, you know.
Your love is wonderful. Yes, it's wonderful. Your love is beautiful.
the way I knew I should. Got no time for caution. All my times get ready, y'all. No time for work. No time for stress. All my time to rest. All my time to be blessed. You know what time it is. It's the Shabbat. Get ready. It's the Shabbat. It's a delight to Yahuwah. It's the Shabbat. You know what time it is. It's the Shabbat. Boss calling, talking about some overtime. I can't come in because this is time. It's not about the money or the problems, yeah. It's about making Yahuwah proud. Got no time for work. Got no time for stress. All my time is to rest. All my time is to be blessed. It's time. Time it is. It's the Shabbat. Get ready. It's the Shabbat. And you know it's a delight to Yahuwah. It's the Shabbat. You know what time it is. It's the Shabbat. It is Shabbat. Yeah, it's Shabbat. It is Shabbat. Yeah, it's Shabbat. It's Shabbat. It's Shabbat. Yeah, it's Shabbat. Yahuwah time. It's Shabbat. Yeah, it's Shabbat. Let it be a delight. Shabbat. Say Yahuwah. It's Shabbat. It's Shabbat. Yeah, it's Shabbat. The day to rest. Shabbat. Yeah, it's Shabbat. The day to rest. Shabbat. Yeah, it's Shabbat. You know what time it is. It's the Shabbat. No time. Get ready. It's the Shabbat. It's Shabbat. It's a delight to Yahuwah. It's the Shabbat. You know what time it is. It's the Shabbat.
Hallelujah. Indeed, it is the Shabbat. Want to say Shabbat Shalom to you all, Mashpaka. It is indeed wonderful to be here today. We give Yahuwah praise, honor, and esteem for this just a wonderful opportunity and indeed a baraka. And so I want to say Shabbat Shalom and welcome to each and every one of you. It is great to see you, family, joining us from wherever you are today, whether it's here in the States or from any place around the world. I want to greet each and every one of you in the name of Yahuwah. As we prepare to begin today, as we prepare to go to prayer, I would like to begin by reading from the book of Katsun, the book of Revelation, chapter 2, just as a reminder to the people of Yahuwah and encouragement to the people of Yahuwah. Praise Father, because we live in a state of great deception, but Yahuwah's word stands sure. Halal Yahuwah. So, in given the subject matter that we're talking about today, the subject that we will be reflecting on, which is the subject of Yahuwah's calendar, a subject that is plagued with confusion. And so in Yasharal today, there are many calendars, many people following many things. And for quite frankly, many people following many traditions. But what we seek here at Yahuwah Yahusha set apart Haykal, what we seek, and for all people who love Yahuwah, what we seek is the truth, the whole truth, and absolutely nothing but the truth. That's what we seek. Please note that we did not say that we have that we have a handle on the truth, that as if we are the possessor of truth. Yahuwah is the possessor of truth. What we do is we seek the truth, the whole truth, and absolutely nothing but the truth. That's our interest. And so that's why we are assembled. That's why we're gathered. We're here to seek Yahuwah, because to seek truth is to seek Yahuwah, because Yahuwah is truth. And so, family, I want to welcome you as you join with me today in seeking truth. And so we give Yahuwah praise, honor, and esteem. Halal hu Yahuwah. Let me begin today by reading from the book of Katsun, the book of Revelation, chapter 2. Halal hu Yah. And many times we read Revelations chapter 2 and verse 9. But and you know, verse 9 and 10, but we often don't spend enough time reflecting on verse 5, I believe. And this is a warning to Yasharal, and this is comfort to Yasharal, to a people who are in the midst of an awakening. And so he says, Yahuwah's word to his people. And this is in Katsun, Revelation chapter 2. I'm going to read from verse 4. But I hold this against you, that you have left your first love. And that's what brings us, Yasharal, to where we are right now, to where we are as a people, the condition that we're in, because we have left our first love. But I hold this against you, that you have left your first love. What is our first love? Our first love is Yahuwah. Our first love is Torah. But I hold this against you, that you have left your first love. So remember from where you have fallen. Yasharal, remember from where you have fallen. Yasharal, remember from where you have fallen, and repent and do the first works, or else I shall come to you speedily and remove your lampstand from its place, unless you repent. And so Yahuwah is calling out to his people today. Yahuwah is calling out to his people in this generation. Yahuwah is calling out to his people in this awakening to repent. The reason why we're in the condition that we're in is because we have left our first love. We have left Yahuwah. We have left his Torah. And so Yahuwah cries out to the scattered people of Yasharal, who have left their first love, who have turned to idolatry, who have turned to Baal. Yahuwah is calling out to Yasharal to repent. But I hold this against you, that you have left your first love. So remember from where you have fallen. So remember from where you have fallen. Family, we have fallen from a very high place. We have fallen from a very high place. It's a place that Yahuwah intended for us to be, but we have fallen. So remember from where you have fallen, and repent and do the first works, or else I shall come to you speedily and remove your lampstand from its place, unless you repent. Yet this you have, that you hate the works of the Nicolaitans, which I also hate. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Ruach says to the assemblies. Halal hu Yah. I'm reading from Katsun, Revelation chapter 2, verses beginning in verse 4. I'm going to put it on the screen. I forgot to do that as we prepare to go before Yahuwah in prayer here today, Mashbaka. I'm reading from Katsun, Revelation chapter 2, beginning in verse 4. But I hold this against you, that you have left your first love. Our first love is Yahuwah. Our first love is Torah. Our first love is his truth. Torah is Yahuwah. Yahuwah is Torah. Yahuwah is truth. Torah is truth. Yet this you have, that you hate the works of the Nicolaitans. Now, of course, this is an historical text, but there are things here that speaks to us right now, right this moment. You have left your first love, which I also hate. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Ruach says to the assemblies. To him who overcomes, I shall give to eat from the tree of life, which is in the midst of the paradise of Elohim. I want to go to chapter 3 now. Chapter 3. Verses 8 and 9. I know your works. See, I have set before you an open door, and no one is able to shut it. And you have little power, yet have guarded my word, and have not denied my name. See, I am giving up those of the congregation of Shaitan, who say they are Yahudim and are not, but do lie. See, I am making them come and worship before your feet, and to know that I loved you. Halal hu Yahuwah. Praise Yahuwah. Yahuwah do love his people, and those who have peddled a lie will worship, will bow before our feet. And so, family, I want to say Shabbat Shalom to you all. And I read these today as we prepare to go into our lesson, and we're gonna jump right into it today, family, because we have a lot to cover. But I read these texts to you today because one of the things that keep our people in ignorance, one of the things that keep our people in tradition, in vain tradition, in man-made tradition, one of the things that keep us in that place, one of the things that keep Yasharal stuck in folly and foolishness and in vain tradition, is the fact that there is a people out there who claim to be the people but are not, and they have peddled many lies. They have presented things to us that are not written in the scriptures, and our people unknowingly follow their vain customs and their vain traditions. We're on the subject of the calendar of Yahuwah today, the calendar, Yahuah's calendar revisited. This is a subject that we have spent some time studying in the past, and we're returning there today for the sake of family who may be a part of this assembly that may have questions concerning the feast, the times of the feast, and so on. And for family out there who are listening, for people out there who are inquisitive, who Yahuwah may be drawing, and you see a lot of confusion. You see one person says that the feast is this time, and the feast is that time. The calendar, we're at this point on the calendar, and we're at that point on the calendar. Well, what we're going to do today, Mashpaka, is we're going to go to the word of Yahuwah, and we're going to let Yahuwah's word speak for itself. We're going to read the word, and then let the word speak for itself. And by the time we come to the end of this day, we should know where we stand as far as Yahuwah's calendar goes. We should know based on the word of Yahuwah, not based on me, not based on your Aki, but based on the written words of Yahuwah. We should know where we are today concerning Yahuwah's calendar. And so that's where we're headed today. But I read from Katsun, the book of Revelation, speaking about from where we have fallen. Because we're a people that have fallen. We're a people that have fallen, Mashpaka. We are a people that have fallen. We are a people that have fallen. So we need to first recognize that we have fallen. We are a people that have fallen. We're a people that have been dethroned. We are a people that have been evicted. We are a people living in exile. We are a people living in captivity. We are a people who have been stripped, you see. And so we are a people who have fallen. So that's the point number one. We are a people who have fallen. Also, we are a people who have been impersonated. We are a people who have been impersonated. We are a people who have been impersonated. Thirdly, we are a people who have been in a deep sleep. We are a people who have been in a deep sleep. We are a people who have been in a deep sleep. And fourthly, we are a people who are awakening. We are a people who are awakening. The awakening is real. We are a people who are awakening. And fifthly, the fact that we are a people who are awakening. When you have been asleep for so long, when you have been asleep through the night, and suddenly there is an earthquake, suddenly there is a shaking, and it interrupts your sleep. You jump out of the bed, you kick the covers, and initially you do not know what's occurring. You wake up in confusion. And so, family, we are a people waking up in confusion. Yes, the awakening is real, but we are a people waking up in confusion. Now, what is going to clarify the confusion? What is going to clarify the facts? What is going to lead us back to the place from which we have fallen? The word of Yahuwah, love of Yahuwah, patience, diligence, compassion, and a desire for truth. And so, family, that's what we're seeking today. We're seeking for the truth, the whole truth, and absolutely nothing but the truth. And so, as we prepare to begin today, let us turn our faces, if we would, to the set-apart place of Yahuwah. And I promise, family, that we're going to jump right into our lesson today because we have a whole lot to cover. I'm going to come back after prayer. I'm going to come to our greeting, and then we're going to jump into our lesson. We're going to reserve questions until a little bit later. And comments and testimonies, we're going to get to them, but please bear with me, family, and hold that until a little bit later. But we want to dive into the word today. We want to get into the word. We have a lot to cover. We've got to go to the book of Dany'Al. We've got to go to the book of Jubilees. We've got to go to the book of Chanuk. We've got to go to the book of Uyaqara. So we've got to go to the book of Dany'Al. We've got to go to the book of Chanuk, what they call Enoch. We've got to go to the book of Yubalym, what they call Jubilees. And we've got to go to the book of Uyaqara, what they call Leviticus. So we have a lot to cover today because what we are studying is the calendar of Yahuwah. And we cannot come to an understanding of Yahuwah's calendar unless we take into account the scriptures dealing with the calendar. All the scriptures dealing with the calendar. And so that's what we hope to do today, family. And so hopefully, prayerfully, at the end of this day, it will bring clarity to the family who may have questions concerning the times of the feast and the point that we are in the year or so in the Shana, so on and so forth. And so, family, we're going to get to that. But let's turn our faces toward the set-apart place of Yahuwah, Halalhu Yahuwah, as his word tells us that when we as a people find ourselves scattered because of our disobedience, if we would turn our faces toward his set-apart place, cry out, call upon his name, seek his face, repent from our transgressions, and he promised that he would hear from Shamayim and that he would heal our land. What is our land? Our land is not America. Where is our land? Our land is not Jamaica. Where is our land? It's not in Africa. Where's our... Well, I shouldn't say it that way. Let's put it this way. Not in South Africa, not in Botswana, not in Uganda. Our land is the land that Yahuwah promised to heal is the land of Yashar'al, Halalhu Yahuwah. Praise Yahuwah. So, family, let's turn our faces toward the set-apart place of Yahuwah today as we bow our hearts and our heads and we raise our hands unto Yahuwah today. Halalhu Yahuwah, raise set-apart hands to Yahuwah. We barak the great name of Yahuwah. You alone are worthy to be praised. We esteem you, Yahuwah. Halalhu Yahuwah. We say, Tuda, Father, for bringing us through yet another week. Tuda, Yahuwah, for bringing us to your Shabbat. Tuda, Yahuwah, for keeping us safe among those who seek to destroy us. Tuda, Yahuwah, for providing for us, for putting food on our tables, and for shelter over our heads. Tuda, Yahuwah, for keeping us in sound minds. Allahu. Father, I praise you for keeping our emotions governed. Allahu. And I pray, Yahuwah, today that your name be esteemed. We call upon the name that is above every name. We give esteem to the name Yahuwah Yahusha. Allahu. We barak your great name today, Yahuwah, and we ask that you would have your way in our midst, in our hearts, and in our minds. We pray, Father, that as we turn to your word today, that you would open our eyes, that you would open our ears, that you would give us hearts of understanding. We pray, Yahuwah, that you would tear down pride. We pray, Yahuwah, that you would put in us a zeal to know your truth. Father, we seek wisdom, but we know, Yahuwah, that the beginning of wisdom is knowledge. And so we come to you, Father, seeking knowledge, seeking your knowledge. Your word says, you said in your word that for a lack of knowledge my people perish. And because we have rejected you and rejected your Torah, you have also rejected us. And you said, Yahuwah, that you would reject our children and our children's children. But we call upon you today to look upon us in mercy and in favor and in compassion. And be merciful unto us, Yahuwah, I pray. And rejoin us to yourself, Father. Chastise us not in your anger, neither turn your face away from us in your wrath, but be merciful unto us and draw us to you, Yahuwah. Draw our children to you, Father. Cause them to know who they are, and cause them to cry out to you and to seek you with their whole heart. And so we barak your great name today. We pray for the continued awakening of your people. We pray, Yahuwah, that our people would see value in themselves, that they would see the value that you have placed in them. Father, we pray that you would change the mindset of our people in every way. Cause us to take value in our surrounding. Cause us to take pride in ourselves, not puffed up pride, but pride that is good for us as a people. Father, I pray that we, Yahuwah, would humble ourselves before you and that we would seek your face continually. Do this, we pray. Awaken your people. Abba Yahuwah, I pray that you would blow upon this great big valley and that the dry bones, that they would begin to come together. That substance would begin to return to these bones. Father, that sinew and flesh, that substance would come, that the awakening would continue, and that a sleeping people would arise and praise your name. Do this, we pray, Abba. Barak every household represented here today and from wherever our people are assembled and gathered. I pray, Yahuwah, that your favor and your baraka would be upon each and every household represented. Do this, we pray, Father. Let your word go forth. Let it go forth with power. Let it go forth with clarity. And let it go forth with the authority that can only come from you. And so I humble myself, Yahuwah, and I ask that you would take my lips, that you would take my mind, and that you would speak through me. Do this in Yahusha's name. Amen. Halahu Yahuwah. Praise Yahuwah. Praise Yahuwah. Once again, Mashbaka, I want to say Shabbat Shalom to each and every one of you. It is indeed a baraka to be here today. I'm excited about being in the assembly of the people of Yahuwah, being assembled with you, family. I praise Yahuwah for this wonderful opportunity, and we truly give Yahuwah praise, honor, and esteem because he alone deserve our praise. He alone deserve our esteem. He alone deserve the honor that comes from our lips. And so we lack the word. I certainly lack the word to give him the esteem that he deserves. I lack the words. I lack the ability to declare it. I don't have words enough. But Yahuwah, I pray that you would look deep into our hearts. Deep into our hearts. Please accept our humble offering. We bring before you today the sacrifices of our lips. Halahu Yahuwah. You are worthy to be praised. Halahu Yah. Praise Yahuwah. Praise Father. Praise Yahuwah Aki. I want to say Shabbat Shalom to you, my Aki Matatyahu. Wonderful to see you on this Shabbat, Aki. Also to my Aki Dany'Al, I want to say Shabbat Shalom to you, Aki. Great to see you as always, my Aki. I want to greet my Akut Yariyah in the name of Yahuwah. Wonderful to see you, Akut. Shabbat Shalom to you and to your Bayat. I want to say also Shabbat Shalom to my Aki Yaderek and to your Bayat Aki. Shabbat Shalom. Wonderful to see you as always, my Aki. Also to Aki Willie. Greetings to you, Aki, in the name of Yahuwah. Halahu Yahuwah. And also, I want to say Shabbat Shalom to Aki Keith. Great to see you as always, my Aki. Also to Akut Joan. It is wonderful to see you, Akut Joan Nuria. Shabbat Shalom to you, Akut. To my Akut Gina, the same to you, Akut. Shabbat Shalom to you, my dear Akut. And also to my Aki Franklin. Greetings to you in the name of Yahuwah. Also want to greet my Aki Delayahu. It is wonderful to see you as always, Aki. Shabbat Shalom to you and to your Bayat. And again there to my Aki Dany'Al. To Akut Sharia, I want to say Shabbat Shalom to you, Akut Sharia. And also to Akut Kaz, I want to say Shabbat Shalom to you and to Aki Yahukanan today. Also want to greet my Akut Angela. Wonderful to see you as always, Akut. Shabbat Shalom to you and to my Akut Amunah. Yahu, Shabbat Shalom to you, Akut. Wonderful to see you as always. And also to my Akut Al Yashaba. Akut Al Yashaba Yashar Al. I want to say Shabbat Shalom to you, Akut. To my Aki Adi Al. Greetings to you, Aki. In the name of Yahuwah. And to also my Akut Adelaide. Or Akut Adelaide. I want to say Shabbat Shalom to you, Akut. Wonderful to see you as always, Akut. And also to my Akut Mac. I want to say Shabbat Shalom to Akut Mac. Wonderful to see you, Akut Mac, as always. And also, I want to greet 951-544. I'm not sure who that is, but I want to greet you in the name of Yahuwah today, and welcome. Also want to say Shabbat Shalom to Akut Mahalia. It is wonderful to see you, Akut Mahalia Yasharal. Great to see you as always. And also to my Akut Carmen. Greetings to you, Akut. Shabbat Shalom to you and to your Bayat. To Akut Sharon, I want to say Shabbat Shalom to you, Akut. Wonderful to see you as always. And also to my Akut Jeanette. It is great to see you, Mashpaka. Greetings to you in the name of Yahuwah. I want to turn my attention here to YouTube for a moment and greet the family there on YouTube. And so let me say Shabbat Shalom to Akut Kela. It is wonderful to have you today, Akut. Great to see you today. Shabbat Shalom to you. Also want to greet Aki Edward. I want to say Shabbat Shalom to you, Aki, King Ed. And I also want to greet my Akut Kaya. Wonderful to see you as always, Akut. Shabbat Shalom to you and to your Mashpaka, to your Bayat. Also want to, I think I greeted Aki Keith. Aki Keith is also joining us via Fuse. And also to our Aki M. Harris. M. Harrison, I want to say Shabbat Shalom to you, Aki. Wonderful to know that we share in this fellowship together today. And to the rest of the family listening in on YouTube whose names are not represented on the screen, I want to say Shabbat Shalom to you. And also the same for Fuse, to the families whose names are not represented on the screen, I want to say Shabbat Shalom to you also. And to the family listening from Facebook Live, I want to say Shabbat Shalom to you also, Mashpaka. It is, and yes, I'm coming to that. And from my house to yours, and I want to say Shabbat Shalom to my Asha. But from our home to yours, we say Shabbat Shalom. Hallelujah. All right. So well, family, it is great to be here today. We give Yahuwah praise, honor, and esteem for this opportunity. Today, I don't know if the title of our lesson today, the title of our study, if it's being reflected correctly on YouTube. I can't seem to figure out how to get this thing to show right, to reflect right when I use this program that I'm using. It doesn't do what I want it to do. But the title of our study for today, the title of our reflection for today from Yahuwah's word, from his Torah, is Yahuwah's calendar revisited. Yahuwah's calendar revisited. And so, family, because we have a whole lot to cover, we're going right into the scriptures. Okay, we're going to be jumping right into the scriptures because we have a whole lot to cover today. We're going to begin today I tell you what, we're going to begin in Yubalym, which is the book of Jubilees. We're going to begin in Yubalym chapter 6 and verse 34, and then we're going to come back to chapter 6, but we're going to go to verse 34, and then we're going to go over to the book of Dany'Al chapter 7 verses 23 through 26, because there are certain points I believe that many of our people are missing that we need to get. There are certain points that many of our people are missing that we need to get. And so I'm gonna go to a few texts starting out, but let me just introduce our study in a little bit more of a detail for today. And so, family, what we have right now, we have a situation among Yahuah'S where there are many calendars, many people following many different timetables, many different calendars. And that is an issue because there is only one truth. There is only one truth. And if there's only one truth, there can be only one true calendar. The question is, does anyone today know what the true calendar is? Does anyone today know what the true calendar is? That's the question that stands before us today. And so we're going to let Yahuah's word answer that question for us. You see, we are truth seekers. We are truth seekers, or we should be truth seekers. And so people who seek for truth, what they do is, as a truth seeker, our responsibility is to dig. You see, our responsibility is to dig. And so when we dig, as we dig, then the truth, because it's been buried, then the truth will be excavated. The truth will be revealed. But we've got to dig for the truth. But we are truth seekers, and therefore, as truth seekers, we have a responsibility to dig. And we got to dig and dig and dig a little deeper. You see, in our case, family, we got to understand that the truth has been buried many layers deep. The truth has been buried many layers deep. And piled on top of the truth, is a bunch of man-made traditions. And what happened, family, is that this is what has happened to us as a people. So for most of us, the majority of us, we were in Christianity. And even when we didn't go to church, for those who say, well, I was never in Christianity because I never went to church. The reality is, the fact of the matter is, that there is not a single person living in captivity who have not been living under Christianity. You see, there is not a single person living in captivity who have not been influenced and affected by Christianity. Whether you went to church or you didn't go to church, you have been influenced and affected by Christianity as a person who was born in this captivity. You see, the slave masters, our slave masters are Christians. And our slave masters established a Christian society, a Christian system. And when you go to school, you are educated under the guise of Christianity. When you walk down the street, the things you encounter has a Christian context. When you talk to people, the things they say is enveloped in Christianity. And so there is not a single person living in captivity, being birthed in captivity, who have not been stung by Christianity. You see. Now, so we grew up in Christianity. And as Yahuah began to stir us, we figure we leave the church. We look away from Christianity. And when we turn our heads and we look over to one side, what we see is something that looks different from Christianity. But the truth of the matter is, it's really not so different than Christianity. I would say that it's simply Christianity in another skirt. I call it Christianity in another skirt. It's still a daughter of the harlot. And what I speak of is no other than Judaism. And so, family, you have a lot of our people today who follow the principles of Judaism and don't realize that what they're following is the principles of Judaism. When it comes to the feast of Yahuah, when it comes to the calendar of Yahuah, we have been impacted and influenced, you see, by Christianity and her harlot sister, Judaism, you see. And so, family, today we're going to be going to the scriptures because what we're seeking is the true calendar of Yahuah. And what does the scripture say about the calendar of Yahuah? Okay, we just last week we looked, family, at the question came up, was not intended, but the question came up, was just a question from one of our family. The question came up about the feast, if I recall correctly. And so whether or not we can keep the feast in captivity. A question arose that led us down that path. And so we saw last week, and I didn't go into details, but Keith Franklin posted a lot of valuable scriptures. Now, I don't know how many people were able to take those scriptures down as Keith Franklin was posting them last week concerning the place, but that's what we reflected on last week. The feast is connected to a place. The Torah of Yahuwah is connected to a place. You see, we've got to understand that the Muadim of Yahuwah are literally appointments, appointed times. If they are appointed times, operative word there is appointed. If they are appointed times, then you've got to have a calibrated calendar in order to keep the appointed time. You need a calendar in order to keep time. Okay? So they're appointed times. That means you need a calibrated calendar. They're also appointed times, and so they're appointed times, and every appointment has a place. Every appointment has a place. Every appointment has a place. Family, is there anyone here? Is there anyone here? I'm sorry, Aki, to keep the suspense going here. We're going to get to it. We're going to get into it. I know there are questions popping up here, but we're going to get to it. Okay? I don't want to speak before the word. I want to let the word speak, and then we examine the word. But every appointment is connected to a place. Is there anyone present? Is there anyone listening who have ever had to go to an appointment and not have that appointment connected to a place? Is there anyone who have ever had an appointment without an appointed place assigned to the appointment? Anyone? Without an appointed place assigned to the appointment. Have anyone ever had an appointment without an appointed place assigned to the appointment? Even if it's on a phone, there's an appointed place. There is no appointment. There is no appointment without a place and a time attached to it. That's what makes it appointed. It cannot be complete without time and place. Every appointment has time and place attached. Every appointment has time and place attached. I want to say that one more time because a lot of people don't get this. Every appointment has time and place attached. Every appointment has time and place attached. You see, that's why the calendar and a calibrated calendar, a correct calendar, is important. And that is why the land is also important. Not just any place. Yahuwah warns us about that. He warns us about that. He calls it idolatry when you go and you do your thing in just every place and any place. Yahuwah calls that idolatry. There's an appointed time and an appointed place attached to every appointed feast. There's an appointed time and an appointed place attached to every appointed feast. So says the scriptures. So last week we reflected on that a little bit. We reflected on the place a little bit. To this week, we're going to be reflecting on the time. We're going to be reflecting on the calendar. And so, family, we have a lot of scriptures to go to. But before we get into the belly of it all, we've got to understand where we are right now and what got us to where we are. So we're going now to the book of Yubalym, chapter 6 and verse 34, and then we're going to go to the book of Dany'Al, chapter 7, verses 23, beginning at verse 23. So Yubalym, chapter 6 and verse 34, I'm going to be putting that on the screen because we need to get these very basic and necessary points in the open rather quickly, sooner rather than later, because there are some basic understandings that we must have. Okay, so let's go to Yubalym, which is what they call Jubilees. We're going to go to chapter 6, and I'm going to read verse 34. Then we're going to come back to chapter 6 later on. Okay? But Yubalym, or Jubilees, chapter 6 and verse 34, I'm going to be putting it on the screens very shortly. Just bear with me while I do that. Yubalym, or Jubilees, chapter 6 and verse 34. Just checking to make sure that everyone can see. I'm going to go down to verse 34 here. Yubalym chapter 6 and verse 34. And all the children of Yasharal will forget, 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 and will not find the path of the years, and will forget the new moons and the seasons and Sabbaths, and they will go wrong as to all the order of the years, and they will go wrong as to all the order of the years. Yubalym, Jubilees chapter 6 and verse 34. And all the children of Yasharal will forget and will not find the path of the years. In other words, there will come a time when the curses come upon you because of your disobedience. There will come a time when the curses come upon you because of your disobedience, that in the curses you will forget and will not find the path of the years. You will not be able to figure out the calendar. You will end up in a state of confusion. You will end up in a state where you have people putting up all kinds of calendars, saying this is the correct calendar and that is the correct calendar and the other is the correct calendar. There will come a time, and all the children of Yasharal will forget and will not find the path of the years, and will forget the new moons and seasons and Sabbaths, and they will go wrong as to all the order of the years. And they will go wrong as to all the order of the years. They will go wrong as to all the order of the years. All right, let's let that one sink in. We're going to come back to the text a little bit later on. Let's go over now to the book of Dany'Al. The book of Dany'Al, chapter 7. I'm going to read from verse 23. Dany'Al chapter 7. We're going to read from verse 23. Dany'Al chapter 7. We're going to read from verse 23. This is what he said. The fourth beast is the fourth reign on earth, which is different from all other reigns. So the fourth beast is the fourth world emperor, which is different from all other world emperors, and it devours all the earth, tramples it down, and crushes it. The fourth beast is the fourth world emperor, and it is different from all the other world emperors that preceded it, and it devours all the earth, tramples it down, and crushes it. And the 10 horns are 10 kings from this emperor, and the 10 horns or 10 kings from this emperor. They shall rise, and another shall rise after them, and it is different from the first ones, and it humbles 3 kings, and it speaks words against the Most High, and it wears out. It speaks words against Allah. That is the word that is actually used here, the title of Yahuwah, Allah. And it speaks words against Allah, and it wears out the set apart ones of the Most High. It wears out the set apart ones of Allah, and it intends to change appointed times and law. And it speaks words against Allah, the Most High, and it wears out the set apart ones of the Most High, and it intends to change appointed times and law. And they are given into its hand for a time, and times, and half a time. So, the people of Yahuwah are given into the hands of this emperor, the one who speaks words against the Most High, who speaks words against Allah and wears out the set apart ones of the Most High, and intends to change appointed times and law, Torah. And they are given into its hand. We the people are given into its hand for a time and times and half a time. The calendar is given into its hand for time and half a times. The Torah is given into their hand for times and times and half a time. For them to, they're going to manipulate it. They're going to change it. They're going to misrepresent it. It has been given into the hand of the wicked for times and half a times. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away its rule, to cut off and to destroy until the end. So right ruling will cease. Correct understanding will cease for a time. That's what it means when they have judgment there, but the judgment shall sit. Right understanding will sit down for a time. And that is where we are today, family. Right understanding has taken a seat. Right understanding has taken a seat. That is why there is so much confusion concerning the calendar of Yahuwah and so many other things. Remember now what we read in Yubalym chapter 6 and verse 34. In Yubalym chapter 6 and verse 34, Yahuwah says, and all the children of Yasharal will forget and will not find the path of the years, and will forget the new moons and seasons and Sabbaths, and they will go wrong as to all the order of the years. So even concerning the order of the years, we would go wrong. Today, is there anyone who truly can say what year we're in? I say to you that there is no one who truly can say what year we're in. You see, there was a time when we knew what year are we in. How do we know whether or not we're in the Jubilees year or not? We do not know. We do not know. We do not know, and at this time we cannot know. Now, of course, I hear people out there right now, if they're listening to me, and who will watch this video later, and I'll see they'll state their claim that they do know. Well, I say to you that according to Yahuah's word, you do not know, and right now it is impossible for you to know, because the calendar of Yahuwah has been given over into the hand of the wicked, according to what we have read from the book of Dany'Al chapter 7, and according to Yubalym chapter 6, the calendar of Yahuwah has been given over into the hand of the wicked for a time. They will manipulate it, and they will seek to change it in order that they may wear out the set apart ones in the light. But we don't need to be worn out, family. We don't need to be worn out. We don't need to sit around and argue and bicker about this, what date is this and what year is that. We need to just pay attention to the word of Yahuwah. And that's what we're doing today. So we're going deeper into the word of Yahuwah. And so, family, invite me as we take this trip, as we seek out Yahuah's calendar in Yahuah's calendar revisited. I say revisited because this is a subject that we have looked at in the past, you see. And even since then, Yahuah continued to reveal himself and his word to me concerning his calendar, you see, even since the last recordings that we did. And so today we're going to dig into his word. We're going to dig into his word, and we're going to let his word speak. Praise Yahuah. Hallelujah. Because what Yahuah desires for us to walk in the truth. Last week we asked the question, we asked Yahuah's word. We looked at what Yahuah said about adding and taking away from his word. Right? Last week we looked at what Yahuah said about adding and taking away from his word. We read the many scriptures that talked about adding and taking away from his word. We read many scriptures that warned us. And so, family, when we do anything that goes contrary to what's written, what we saw as we went over those scriptures is that when we do anything, when we create, when we add things, when we add traditions and we add customs, then what we're doing is we're adding to his word. We're adding to his instructions. And Yahuah says to those who add to his word, to those who add to his instructions, he will add to them the plague of his Torah. And to those who take away from his word, who say, oh, well, that doesn't matter. That's done away with and whatever. So you ain't got to worry about that. He says that I will remove their name from my record, from my book of life. And so, family, we don't want to add and we don't want to take away. We want to let Yahuah's word speak for itself. We want to let Yahuah's word speak for itself. Okay? So we're going to go to, next, we're going to go to now the book of Chanuk. Chanuk, which is what they call Enoch. And so we're going to the book of Chanuk, and we're going to go to Chanuk chapter 72. Okay, that's where we're headed now. So I'm going to be putting that on the screen. I have a microphone open there somewhere. Let's see. Just check your mics for me, family. There is a microphone open. Trying to figure out which one it is, but I can't. Okay, it's from phone number 951. Phone number 951. I don't want to mute the phones, so that when that time comes and you want to use it. Well, for now, I guess if I mute the phones, it don't stop you from hearing, does it? Okay. That phone is now muted. Okay. All right. So let's go to the book of Chanuk, family. And so let's examine what Yahuah's word says to us. We're going to go to the book of Chanuk. I'm going to put it on the screen here. Bear with me just for a second. Get it on the screen. Chanuk chapter 72. Yahuah's calendar revisited. Okay, let's see. Where do I have this thing? Is not allowing me to see it. I might have to use. Okay, let's see what I'll do. Okay, let's go to. It's not allowing me to. Let me try another. Give me a second, family. Because of this tab up here, it gets in the way. I wish I could just get it. Okay, let me try to. I have it open, but you can't see it. I can't get to it because that tab is in the way. But let's do something else here. Let's try to get it another way on the screen. Okay. We're going to go to chapter 72. in the book of Chanuk. Let's see. Wait, I went down too far here. Bear with me just for a second, family. LXX 72 LXX. Did I go past it? No, I didn't. Gotta go down some more. LXX, LXX, LXX. Okay. Chanuk 72. Now, verse 25 is where I want to begin. I would start earlier, but sooner, but I'm going to just jump down a little bit for the sake of time because we have quite a bit to cover. There's a few other things in here that I'd like to point out, but I don't want to get off subject. I want to kind of try to stick to the point here. Okay? So, family. Beginning in verse 25, it says, you know what? Let me back up a little bit. Let me back up just a little bit. I'm not going to begin down here. I'm going to back up just a little bit. Okay. You know what? I'm going to just start at the beginning and read from there to give context, okay? I'm going to start from verse 1 in 72. The book of the courses of the luminaries of Shamayim, the relations of each according to their classes, their dominion, their seasons according to their names and places of origin, and according to their months, which Uriel, the set apart messenger, who was with me, who is their guide, showed me. And he showed me, now we know who Uriel is from other studies. Uriel, which means Elohim is light. Elohim is our guide. Okay? And so Uriel, when we see Uriel in the scriptures, that is Yahuwah. That's an attribute of Yahuwah. Okay? Speaking to his people, enlightening his people, giving knowledge to his people. And so Uriel, you could say, is the enlightener, the knowledge giver. Okay? That's the knowledge giving attribute of Yahuwah. Okay? So, again, the book of the courses of the luminaries of Shamayim, the relations of each according to their classes, their dominion, their seasons, according to their names and places of origin, and according to their months, which Uriel, the set apart messenger, not angel, but messenger, who was with me, who is their guide, showed me. And he showed me all their laws accord exactly as they are, and how it is with regard to all the years of the world and on to eternity, till the new creation is accomplished, which dureth till eternity. And this is the first law of the luminaries. The luminary, the sun, as it's rising in the eastern portals of Shamayim, and it's setting in the western portals of Shamayim. And I saw 6 portals in which the sun rises, and 6 portals in which the sun sets, and the moon rises and sets in these portals, and the leaders of the stars and those whom they lead, 6 in the east and 6 in the west, and all following each other in the accurately corresponding order, also many windows to the right and left of these portals. And first there goes forth the great luminary, named the sun, and his circumferences is like the circumference of Shamayim, meaning that the sun is huge, even though it's not the biggest star in the heavens. The sun is huge. And he is quite filled with illuminating and heating fire. Now, when Yahuwah speaks of his creation, he speaks of his creation, he used I forget the term that I'm trying to find now, but it is important for us to understand this, because if we don't understand it, then we will turn to the worship of the creation rather than the creator, as many people do. But he gives he has a way of personalizing his creation, because to Yahuwah every bit of his creation is important. We might find mosquitoes annoying, but they serve their purpose. We might find the leaves of trees in the fall, as they fall from the trees, annoying, but they serve their purpose. You see, we might find the cold weather annoying, but it serves its purpose. We might find the heat annoying, but it serves its purpose. Yahuwah knows the purpose for which he created his creation. Man in their folly sometimes seek to change the purposes. And because they want things the way they want it instead of the way that it was intended to operate, we like to fondle with things. We like to change things. And because we so like to change things, when things aren't the way that we, in our prideful state, want them to be, then we become annoyed at the Creator for creating it out of his wisdom to work that he knows best for it to work. And so what we do is we seek to go and we seek to make things. We seek to create genetically modified foods, genetically modified human beings, genetically modified this and genetically modified that. We seek to modify ourselves in all kinds of ways. We seek to modify our behaviors in all kinds of ways. We do things that are unnatural and unnormal, and then we want to call it normal. And when Yahuwah tells us that it is not normal, then we want to get upset at him. You see, so we have this what you would call rebellion in us that is always seeking to go against the ways of Yahuwah. So we have to put things in their right perspective. Yahuwah personalizes creation because his creation is special to him. Everything that he creates is special to him. We are so special to Yahuwah that even the very hairs on our head is numbered. I don't know if anybody have ever been truly successful at individually counting every strand of hair on a person's head. You can come up with an estimate. If say you part off 1 square inch of your head and you count the number of hairs in that square inch, and then you take the entire measurement of your head, the circumference of your head, and then you multiply that by that square inch, then you can come up with a guesstimate as to how many strands of hair is on someone's head. And that's what scientists have done in many cases. But I don't think anybody have taken the time to try to sit there and count the number of strands on a person's head. But yet we are so important to Yahuwah that he has done just that. That he has counted the strands of hairs on our heads. That he knows even the very number of strands in our heads. That's how special we are to him. All of Yahuwah's creation is special to him, and so he personifies them. When he speaks of them with personal characteristics or in the aspect of a person. So for example, when we read in the scriptures, it speaks about the trees clapping their hands. The trees clapping their hands. We have to understand that it's not saying that trees have hands, it is metaphoric language. But the reality is that even the trees speak in a language given to them by Yahuwah. And if we pay attention, then we will see the signs of the times. Because when it's wintertime, when the tree should be dead and you see it still green and flourishing, it is a sign to us that something is not normal. After all, it's not an evergreen tree. It's not a tree that should be green at this time. When you see a tree flowering at a time when it should be what you call hibernating, it's a sign to us that something isn't right. When we see animals, for example, if you see a animal that only comes out at night, and if you see him walking around in the middle of the day, that's a sign that there is something wrong with that animal. He's probably rabid. There's something wrong with him. You need to stay away from him. And so everything that Yahuwah create, he create them with purpose, and he create them with a language. And if we take the time to learn their language, then we will be warned by them. In the book of Tahalim, Psalms chapter 19, it says that Shamayim declares the esteem of Yahuwah, and the earth shows forth his handiwork. Night after night shows forth speech. Day after day gives wisdom. There is no speech nor language in which their voices are not heard. And so all of creation speaks if we would take the time to listen, if we would take the time to observe, if we would take the time to look around us, then we would see the signs of the time that they're in the very creation, that creation speaks of them. And so everything that Yahuwah creates is significant. And everything that Yahuwah creates has a voice. And so to Yahuwah it is important, and it should be important to us also. But many times in our folly we miss the message. So Yahuwah, because these things have voices, they have their own language. Simply because they have their own language, and simply because the tree have its own language, it does not mean then that we should then go and worship the tree. You see? You respect Yahuwah's creation. Respect the tree, but you don't worship the tree. You respect the animal, but you don't worship the animal. You respect the river, but you don't worship the river. You respect the sun, but you don't worship the sun. Yahuwah's creation should be respected, but not worshipped. So family, we have to understand as we study the word of Yahuwah, when for example it speaks of the sun as he, it is not telling you that the sun is something to be worshipped. But in the same way that it speaks of the trees having hands, because the trees were created with purpose, and that the tree have characteristics, and that the tree have a language, it's the same way that he speaks of the sun, because the sun was created with purpose, the sun has character, and the sun has a language. Not for us to worship it. Man, though, have turned to the worship of the creation rather than the creator. And so I want to highlight that though you might see it says here about he, the sun as he, it is not saying that you should worship the sun. And so somebody then should not try to write off this text as being illegitimate, saying that this text is encouraging you to worship the sun. Now, I've seen people read this text and then teach that the sun is what they call an angel, in the sense of literally a person in that sense. And I've seen people in Yasharal teach that the sun is Yahuwah. I have seen that recently. There is an Aki on YouTube. Video is probably up right now. Still. I don't remember the title of the video. But it's basically talking about Yahuwah's timepiece in the heavens. And in one of those videos, he speaks of the sun being Yahuwah. That's idolatry. And that's people calling on the name Yahuwah Yahusha. Yahuwah, and I would say, let me say Yahuwah. In their minds, Yahusha is different than Yahuwah. You see? But that's idolatry. So we need to be careful of that. So I want to take a moment to point this out, that even though the text speaks of the sun as he, it is not a call to us to worship the sun. In the same way that the text speaks of the sun as he, it speaks of trees clapping their hands. You see, trees don't have hands. You see? It's a way of Yahuwah exemplifying or showing the importance of his creation, their purpose, right? Okay, so let's go back. And I saw 6 portals in which, I'm reading from verse 3, and I saw 6 portals in which the sun rises, and 6 portals in which the sun sets, and the moon rises and sets in these portals, and the leaders of the stars and those whom they lead, 6 in the east and 6 in the west, and all following each other in accurately corresponding order. Also many windows to the right and left of these portals. And first there goes forth the great luminary named the sun. Luminary. Thing that gives light. Okay? Shiner of light. Okay? It gives light. That's the purpose of the sun. To light the earth. To light our galaxy. Okay? Now, verse 4. And first there goes forth the great luminary named the sun, and his circumference is like the circumference of Shamayim, and he is quite filled with illuminating and heating fire. The chariot on which he ascends, now this is something else I got to point out here very quickly. The chariot on which he ascends, the wind drives. And the sun goes down from Shamayim and returns through the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he comes to the appropriate portal and shines in the face of Shamayim. So let me take some time here to talk about the chariot for a second, because I don't want anybody to be confused by this. Or some people again read this and they say, see, that's nothing more than that Egyptian belief. You can't trust the book of Chanuk. You can't read the book of Chanuk because it's a myth. It's teaching the same thing the Egyptians teach. No, it's not. Simply because it talk about the chariot that the sun rides. You see, in sun worship and in Egyptian belief, let me go to the room here for a second. In sun worship and in Egyptian belief, there is this belief that this is what sun worship is all about. The reason why people worship the sun is because of their misunderstanding of the scriptures. So in Egypt, you have in some of the pyramids, you have the laws of Yahuwah interpreted, not written, but interpreted on the walls of some of the pyramids in Egypt. And because you see these laws interpreted, meaning that they're not written exactly as they were spoken or given by Yahuwah, but they're interpreted on the walls in Egypt. They're called the negative confessions or something they're called. Okay? So they're written on the walls of pyramids in Egypt. And so people who want to believe in idolatry, who believe that they were created by those winged creatures that you see drawn on walls in Egypt, that they were created by things drawn by the hand of man. Because people want to believe in that, then they say that those laws were given by those things, that those laws were given by snakes and by eagles and by things that are half man, half animal, that those laws were given by those things, and that those things existed even before the concept of some other creator other than them was ever invented, they say. Well, what we know is that Yahuwah, who is invisible in the heavens, has always existed. The creator Yahuwah, the one who created the earth, existed long before the people who drew those drawings and called them mighty ones lived. Those drawings are there because some people lived and drew them on the wall and said, this is your mighty one, worship him. After all, that's what they do in every idolatrous society. When you go to Babylon, while Nebuchadnezzar was king, he did the same thing. He erected an image. And he said, this is your creator. Worship him. If you go throughout history, you will find that in every idolatrous society, they do the same thing. The people, they draw their images. They draw mighty ones and then name the mighty ones. In other words, they create the mighty ones. And then say to the other people, this is your creator, worship him. And then stupid people bow down and worship something that was created after them. How can something that was created after you have already been living then be your creator? Did you stop and think about that before you bowed and worshiped? But that's what societies have done. And that's why Yahuwah forbid Yasharal to create these images, you see. So in Egypt, what they did was the people created those images, created those mighty ones and said, this is your creator, worship him. But the reality is, the fact of the matter is, that before they took Yahuwah's word and played on Yahuwah's word, yes, that's what they did. They took Yahuwah's word and played on Yahuwah's word. You say, how could they do that? Yahuwah's word wasn't even in existence back then. Really? Yahuwah has always existed. Without Yahuwah, there would be no world. Without Yahuwah, there would be no Egypt. Without Yahuwah, there would be no people. So Yahuwah have always existed. And if Yahuwah have always existed, then guess what? His word has always existed. And we have seen that Yahuwah have always sought for his creation to live in accordance with his word because it is best for them. And so Yahuwah have always sought to give his word to mankind. The problem is that mankind have always rejected his word. That brings us to Abraham. Because when he sought for a man and no one would respond, Abraham responded. And out of that come the nation of Yasharal. But Yahuwah have always sought for a people who would obey. That's why we read in the book of Bereshit, where he said that he would replenish the earth. You can't replenish what was not existent before. And so obviously, Yahuwah had destroyed a people who were living and acting wickedly. And so, he recreated. And he said, be fruitful and replenish the earth. Aratz. Yes. Indeed, a key. Absolutely. So that's the reality. So now what happened in Egypt, where you see them now in their sun worship? They draw pictures of the sun traveling in chariots across the sky. And as their story goes, the reason why they worship the sun is because every night the sun gets in its chariot and it travels across the sky battling darkness, and in the morning it arises victorious, and so they worship the sun. Well, where did they get that from? You see, all of that is a misunderstanding of what is being stated by Yahuwah. Because Yahuwah is not speaking, the vehicle that Yahuwah speaks of is not a literal chariot. It's actually the winds of the heavens. And as a matter of fact, family, this is written throughout the scriptures. You find it in the book of Tahalim. You find it in the book of Jubileem. You find it in other places. Yes, a pathway and the solar winds. You see. So let's look at it here what is being said. So this is not sun worship. This is people not understanding the word of Yahuwah and creating idolatry out of their misunderstanding. Okay, so now it says, and first there goes forth the great luminary, verse 4, named the sun, and his circumference is like the circumference of Shamayim, and he is quite filled with illuminating and heating fire. Watch this, the chariot on which he ascends, and there goes somebody, gotcha. Yeah, that's sun worship. You shouldn't be reading that. No, the chariot on which he ascends. What is the chariot? Is it a chariot? Watch it now. The wind drives, the chariot on which it ascends. It's not a literal chariot, is not what he's saying. So the sun is not he, it's not a person, and it does not drive on a literal chariot. It's just the path that it takes. The chariot on which it ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from Shamayim and returns through the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he comes to the appropriate portal and shines in the face of Shamayim. Let me point out something else here as we go through this study. Because we have to understand that when the scriptures is written, when Yahuwah give his word to his prophets to preserve for his people, Yahuwah gives his word to us so that we may understand it from our perspective, from where we stand. The word is given for us to understand it from where we stand, from the way we see things, from our perspective. The fact of the matter is that the sun does not set. The sun does not rise nor fall. Okay? The sun does not set. Okay? So it speaks here about the sun setting. The sun does not set. You see? The sun does not rise and it does not set. What happens is the rotation of the earth. Now I hear the other people out there, the flat earth people, oh, the earth doesn't rotate. Oh, come on. Get real. There's simple evidence that shows this. Simple evidence that shows this. Simple evidence that shows this. Matter of fact, you ain't even got to fly to China to figure it out. Just travel from the east coast of America to the west coast of America and you will figure it out. If you have any kind of sense. There's a reason why there's a difference in time zones and the effect that that time zone has on travel. So get on an airplane and travel from Los Angeles or from somewhere in California to Philadelphia or New Jersey, and you'll get an education in time zone and time travel. So when Yahuwah gives his word, he gives it because he knows the perspective from which we are seeing the things that he is speaking about. In other words, we're not up there high enough to realize that the sun doesn't actually set. So from where we stand on the earth, it would seem to us as if the sun rises and the sun sets because of where we are on the earth. But the reality is, if we should get higher, if we should get off the earth and get higher, then we would see that the sun doesn't rise nor set. It's just the movement, the rotation of the earth that causes it to seem that way to us, that creates that perception. And so when Yahuwah gives his word, he gives it to us in a way that we can relate to it, understand it from where we are standing. Okay? Now let's get back to the text. Yes. Yes, Aki. Yeah, the flat earth people. The sun goes to sleep at night. Now, so going back to verse 5, the chariot on which he ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from the Shamayim and returns through the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he comes to the appropriate portal and shines in the face of Shamayim. In this way, he rises in the first moon or first month in the great portal, which is the fourth, those 6 portals in the east. Matter of fact, you see where you see those green things, that don't belong. They just add that in there. Okay? So they're just telling you now where it rises is in the east within those 6 portals. And in that fourth portal from which the sun rises in the first month are 12 window openings. These are the months of the year. So what we're seeing so far, and you're going to see this as we continue, this is important now. A year has 2 different divisions, 2 means of division. A year has 2 means of division. Okay, this is what we're seeing so far, and we're going to see more as we continue. So first, a year is broken up into as a matter of fact, it actually have 2. So the year is broken up into 4 parts, and then it's broken up into 12 parts. Okay, the year has 2 divisions. There's broken up into 4 major parts, and then there are 12 parts. Okay, the 4 parts are the 4 quarters. The 12 parts are the 12 months that make a year. So there are 12 months in a year, but not according to the Gregorian calendar. When I talk about 12 months in a year, I'm not talking about January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the way that the year is broken up by the luminaries, by the sun and the moon. Okay? The way the year is divided. Because the way the sun and the moon moves, it moves in portals. Each portal is a month. You see, each portal is a month. And there are 12 months in the year. Okay? So as the luminaries go through their portals, it take you into different months, and months take you into seasons. Until you come to the end of the year and you begin the cycle all over again. Okay, so we keep that in mind. All right, now let's go back to the text. Where was I at? Okay, let's pick up at verse 6. In this way, he rises in the first month in the great portal. In the great portal. The great portal, the first month in the great portal, that's spring. Spring is the great portal. Which is the fourth. Now you'll understand this better as we go on. Those 6 portals in the east. Verse 7. And in that fourth portal from which the sun rises in the first month are 12 window openings. Okay, so the fourth portal. Okay, the fourth portal. This is where the year is divided into quarters. So spring comes at the end of the fourth portal and the beginning of the first portal. Okay, that's why it says the fourth. Okay, but let's continue. As time goes on, you'll see this more clearly. And in that fourth portal from which the sun rises in the first month are 12 window openings. Okay, so at the beginning of the year now, the year is divided into 12 parts. 12 months make the year. Okay, stick with me on this, if you would. When the sun rises in Shamayim, he comes forth through that fourth portal 30 mornings in succession. So 30 mornings, 30 days in succession, the sun comes through that portal and sets accurately in the fourth portal in the west of Shamayim. And during this period, the day becomes daily longer and the night shorter to the 30th morning. So once spring comes in, the day begin to become longer, you begin to see more and more sunlight and less darkness. By the way, there we have to give definition to night also in order for us to understand this. Because night, according to the scriptures, does not begin at a certain time, at a particular time. Night begins when darkness comes. That's the way it works in the scriptures. Night begins when darkness comes. That's why as you continue to read, you're going to see where it talks about the night being so much longer than the day, because night don't come at 6 o'clock every day. Night don't come at 9 o'clock every day. Night don't come at 5 o'clock every day. There are times when nighttime starts to be 4 o'clock. It begins to be nighttime at 4 o'clock. Begins to be nighttime at 4:30. Begins to be nighttime at 5 o'clock. Begins to be nighttime at 6 o'clock. So on and so forth. And then you come to the other side when the sun gets in the other portal, and nighttime don't come until 9 o'clock. And depending on where you are on the earth, nighttime might not come until 12 o'clock or even 1 o'clock. And then, depending on where on your earth, nighttime don't come for 6 months. You see. So, now, let's, when the sun rises in Shamayim, he comes forth through that fourth portal 30 mornings in succession, and sets accurately in the fourth portal in the west of the Shamayim. And during this period, the day becomes daily longer, and the night nightly shorter to the 30th morning. On that day, the day is longer than the night by a 9th part. You break it up into 9 parts, 10 parts, and it's 9 part longer. And the day amounts exactly to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts. And the sun rises from that fourth portal and sets in the fourth and returns to the fifth portal of the east 30 mornings, and rises from it and sets in the fifth portal. And when the day becomes longer by 2 parts and amounts to 11 parts, and the night becomes shorter and amounts to 7 parts, and it returns to the east and enters into the sixth portal, and rises and sets in the sixth portal 1 and 30 mornings on account of its sign. Now pay attention. Now this is where things are getting a little bit more clear. So now it's bringing you to the end of a quarter. So at the end of every quarter, there is an extra day accounted for. At the end of every quarter. Remember we say, as a matter of fact, let me come to the room for a second. How many quarters are in the year again, family? How many quarters are in the year? 4. There are 4 quarters in the year. Tuda. There are 4 quarters in the year. And so at the end of every quarter, there is an extra day. Okay? At the end of every quarter, there's an extra day. How many days are in a standard quarter, according to what we just read? How many days are in a standard quarter, according to what we just read? 90, that's right. 90 days. 90 days are in a standard quarter. 90 days. Right? 90 days. So there are 330s. Each month has how many days? Each month have how many days? 30. Each month have 30 days. So in the quarter, you have 90 days. Okay? Now, to complete the quarter, at the end of the quarter, there is an extra day. And that is the day of whether it be the solstice or the equinox. Okay? That is the day of the solstice or the equinox. Okay? All right? The day of the solstices. Okay? All right? So that's the day of change, the day of changeover. Okay, this is important, and we'll see the importance of it as we continue to read. Okay? Now, Let's continue. Okay, so now in verse 13, and it returns to the east and enters into the sixth portal and rises and sets in the sixth portal 1:30 mornings on account of its sign. Notice that now, okay? Pay attention to this. This is getting very important here now. Okay, notice now all of a sudden we're talking about 31 days, 31 mornings. Okay, so far it's been 30. Now we're at 31. And it returns to the east and enters into the sixth portal and rises and sets in the sixth portal 1:30 mornings on account of its sign. Okay, so when it came to the fourth portal, that was the beginning of a year. Remember that. That was the spring. Now it goes for 90 days. Brings us now into the sixth portal. And this is now a new season, the beginning of a new season. And it marks 31 days. The 31st day is the day of the sign of the quarter. The sign of the change of season. Or the solstices. Okay? All right, keep that in mind. On that day, the day becomes longer than the night, and the day becomes double the night, and the day becomes 12 parts, and the night is shortened and becomes 6 parts, and the sun mounts up to make the day shorter and the night longer, and the sun returns to the east and enters into the sixth portal and rises from it and sets 30 mornings. So now we're back to the cycle of 30s. Okay? Now, family, this might be hard for us to understand because we are not guided by the sun and the moon in the culture that we live in. So we don't realize the dramatic changes that take place during the year with sunlight and darkness. We don't realize the dramatic changes that take place because we're a people accustomed to artificial lights. Have you ever noticed that when you look up in the sky, you hardly see any stars? Sometimes you don't see none at all. Is it because there are no stars? Or why don't we see the stars? When we look up in the skies, for us living in the cities, and even people living out in places that aren't cities, there is so much artificial light on the earth that the artificial light blocks out the luminaries of the night. And so, because we have so much artificial light, we do not realize the drastic changes that takes place on a daily basis as we go through the yearly cycle. So because of this artificial lighting, when we read from the book of Chanuk and it's explaining the changes, we might be sitting here wondering, well, when did this take place? I didn't notice that. Well, because we are pumped up on artificial lights. You see, that's why people really, when there wasn't all of this artificial lighting, that's why people really got so serious about worshiping the stars and the sun and the moon. Because they really saw the impact that their presence have. But because of all the artificial light, we don't see the impact that they have. For us, it seemed as if they don't even exist. We don't see the changes, you see, because all of the artificial lighting blocks the changes. We don't see it. Family, you know why it is that we find it so hard to go to sleep at night? That we can't go to bed till 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. You know why that is? Because of all the artificial lights. The artificial lights messes up our clock. Our bodies have an internal clock. Now, if you had no artificial light, you know what would happen to your body? As the sun begins to set, your body begins to unwind. Sleep begins to set in because your body works with the sun. You see. And so if you have no artificial light, then as the time begins to get dark, you begin to get sleepy. And as the sun begins to arise in the morning, you begin to awake with the sun, because your body works with the sun. You see. Yes, indeed. If you had no artificial light, you would get sleepy. As soon as the sun go down, you would be ready for bed. And when the sun rises, you would be up with the sun. But because of artificial light, our bodies have been tricked. And so it does not operate in that way. And we don't recognize the impact that this creation has on us. And we lose sight of how it works. You see. But this is what Chanuk is explaining here. How the luminaries work. But again, it might be a little bit more difficult for us to understand because we have been disconnected from it so much. You see. Yahuwah created everything for man. What did Yahuwah do? What was the last thing he created at creation? He created everything. And then, after he created everything, then he created man. Meaning then, that what he did was he made sure everything was in place, and then he made man to fit in with what was created. So man worked with everything and everything worked with man. But when man transgressed, that's where we mess up the system. We went against the perfect plan of Yahuwah and we messed it up. You see, we put our own stuff in there. Yahuwah never intended for us to put our own stuff in. All we had to do was go with what was created for us. Everything was created for us. Everything was created for our benefit. But we had to come and do our own thing. And that's where we messed things up. You see. Now, yes indeed, Aki, if you go someplace dark enough, the stars seem as if you could reach out and touch them. And there's so many of them. Now, going back to the text. So, let me get back to the right text. All right, family, we have a bit more to go here. Quite a bit to cover, but it's my hope that by the time we get to the end of this study here today, that it will give us some clear understanding concerning Yahuwah's calendar. Okay, don't forget where we started. We started in Yubalym chapter 6 verse 34, where Yahuwah said that there would come a point in the curses where we don't even know how to keep track of the year anymore. When we look in Dany'Al chapter 7, where Yahuwah said that an emperor would arise, a world leader would arise that would manipulate the calendar and seek to change times and laws, and they certainly have. Okay, and that's where we are right now. Okay, now we're gaining some understanding of the calendar here, but this is not the end of it. Do not think that by the time we come to the end of the book of Chanuk and the book of Jubilees, do not begin to think that you have a handle on the calendar, because I'm going to put something else in the mix that's going to throw us for a loop. Okay, so let's continue. On that day, the day becomes, okay, so now we're at the sixth portal, and rises and sets in the sixth portal 1 and 30 mornings on account of its sign. On that day, the day becomes longer than the night, and the day becomes double the night, and the day becomes 12 parts, and the night is shortened and becomes 6 parts. And the sun mounts up to make the day shorter and the night longer, and the sun returns to the east and enters into the sixth portal, and rises from it and sets 30 mornings. And when 30 mornings are accomplished, the day decreases by exactly 1 part and becomes 11 parts, and the night 7. And the sun goes forth from the sixth portal in the west and goes to the east and rises in the fifth portal for 30 mornings and sets in the west again in the fifth western portal. On that day, the day decreases by 2 parts and amounts to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts. So now, family, there's a transition taking place if you're following what's going on. So what happens is, when you go into spring, then you come to summer, okay? That's the next marker on the calendar. Summer is the next marker on the calendar. So from spring going into summer, the day grows longer. Now from summer going to fall, the day begins to grow shorter and the nights grow longer. From fall going into winter. Okay, so from spring going into fall, the day grows longer, and from fall going into winter, the day grows shorter. Okay? Now, on that day, the day decreases by 2 parts and amounts to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts. And the sun goes forth from the 5th portal and sets in the 5th portal of the west and rises in the 4th portal for 130 mornings. So this is where we go back now to 31 again. We have another cycle of 30. Now we're back to 31. Okay, that's the end of another quarter. Okay, that is the time of the solstices. Okay, the day of the solstice. The 4th portal and 30 mornings on account of that. Okay, verse 19. And the sun goes forth from the 5th portal and sets in the 5th portal of the west and rises in the 4th portal for 130 mornings on account of its sign. Pay attention. Every time you see 31 days, you have a sign that accompanies it and sets in the west. On that day, the day is equalized with the night. And because that's the summer solstice, the day is equalized with the night and becomes of equal length. And the night amounts to 9 parts and the day to 9 parts. And the sun rises from that portal and sets in the west and returns to the east and rises 30 mornings in the 3rd portal and sets in the west in the 3rd portal. And on that day, the night becomes longer. So now a reversal is taking place. After the summer solstice occurs, now the reversal. Okay, so up to the summer solstice, days are getting longer, nights are getting shorter. After the summer solstice occurs, for the next 30 days, the night is getting longer and days are getting shorter. And night becomes longer than night and day shorter than day, than the previous day and the previous night is what it's saying, till the 30th morning, and the night amounts exactly to 10 parts and the day to 8 parts. And the sun rises from that 3rd portal and sets in the 3rd portal in the west and returns to the east, and for 30 mornings rises in the 2nd portal in the east, and in like manner sets in the 2nd portal in the west of Shamayim. And on that day, the night amounts to 11 parts and the day to 7 parts. And the sun rises on that day from that 2nd portal and sets in the west in the 2nd portal and returns to the east into the 1st portal for 130 mornings. And sets in the 1st portal in the west of Shamayim. So that's the end of another quarter, marking a period of 31 and not 30. And on that day, the night becomes longer and amounts to the double of the day, and the night amounts exactly to 12 parts, and the day to 6. And the sun has therewith traversed the divisions of his orbit, and turns again on those divisions of his orbit, and enters that portal 30 mornings, and sets also in the west opposite to it. Now I want to stop here for 1 second before I go any further, and I want to point out something else concerning people with the flat earth theory. You see, family, Yahuah's word make it clear that everything is done in cycles. Everything is done in cycles, or we could say circle. Okay? Now, so what you're seeing is that even concerning the year, when Yahuwah says that there is absolutely nothing new under the sun, in the way that a year operates, there is nothing new under the sun. In other words, the cycles that you see at the beginning of the year is repeated at the end of the year, at the ending of the year, but in the reversed. In the same way that when you look at the moon in its cycles at night, when you look at the moon for 15 days, you see one side of the moon. Okay? Not the whole side. You see a quarter of the moon for 15 days. You see, nobody on the earth has ever seen the whole moon. It's impossible for you to see the whole moon from the earth. So what you're actually seeing, you're seeing a quarter of the moon. The full moon is only a full side of the moon, not the whole moon. You see, you only see a half of the moon. The most you ever see is a half of the moon. You never see the whole moon. You see? So when we talk about the full moon, it's only the full moon from the perspective from which we stand, not the entire moon. One side of the moon is always dark. One side of the moon is always dark because it faces away from the sun. Okay? So whenever we're looking at the moon, anyway, so when you look at even the moon, if you begin to watch the moon from the first day of the new moon to the last day of the new moon, what you're going to notice is this. You're going to notice that there are certain shapes associated with each day of the moon, or each portal of the moon, or each cycle of the moon. There are certain shapes associated. And those shapes go from day 1 to day 15. And then from day 15 to day 30, you're seeing the same shapes, but now you're seeing them on the opposite side of the moon. You know why? Because of the rotation of the earth and of the moon. And so now you're seeing the same shape, but now you're seeing them on the opposite side of the moon. Okay, you're seeing them where you're now not seeing them on the right, you're seeing them on the left. But it's the same shapes, you see. So you have the growing moon and you have the waning moon. In the same way, you have the growing year and you have the waning year. So when the scriptures tells us that there's absolutely nothing new under the sun, even the very creation, the moon and the stars and the trees and everything tells us that message. You can look at the trees, you can look at the grass, and you can see the same thing. That everything is a repetitive cycle. Nothing new, you see. Now the shape of the moon, the shapes that you see, and the reflection, the shapes come as a result of the reflection of the sunlight. That's how you get the shapes. Because of the shape of the moon, because it's oval, and the way the sun shines on it and where we are on the earth, that's how you get the different shapes. Okay? Now, so going back to the text. Yes, he did. Yes, he did, Aki. Yes, he did. He did. He caused that the rotation to stop when Yahusha pursued Amalek. You see, absolutely. He extended the day. Yes, he did. And only Yahuwah has the power to do so. Only Yahuwah has the power to do so. You see, only Yahuwah could do so. No, not in the sense that the sun rotate. Not in the sense, because again, you're speaking from our perspective. Remember what I said at the beginning, Aki? That the sun actually doesn't rise nor set. So we're reading in Chanuk where it talks about the sun rising and setting, because the word is written for us to understand it from where we stand. But it's not that it's rising nor setting. It's just the way it appears to us. You see? Just like it appears to us as if we are seeing the whole moon when we're only seeing a half of the moon. And we call it a full moon, but we're not seeing the full moon. We're only seeing one half of the moon. You see, it's just from our perspective. So Yahuwah knows the perspective from which we are observing, and so he writes so that we can understand from what the perspective from which we are seeing. You see. Yes. So all of the bodies in our solar system, planets, whatever we call them. Some people have issue with the word planet. But all of the bodies in our solar system rotate around the sun. And that is evident just from our movement on the earth. You see, simple things that we do, you see, shows that to be true. When you spin around, why is it that you get giddy? Why is it that you get dizzy? You know why it is you get dizzy? For the same reason where if you're standing next to a moving vehicle and you hold your head down, you might be sitting in a car, you might be sitting still somewhere, and the vehicle come moving by you. You're holding your head down, and out of your peripheral, you look, and it's, all of a sudden you feel like you're moving. I don't know if you've ever been in a car and a long bus or truck or something pull up next to you, and that vehicle start moving, and you're in the car, and all of a sudden you're squeezing the brake, pressing it real hard, trying to stop moving, because it seems as if you're moving. But you're not moving. The vehicle next to you is moving. You see? But why do these things happen? You see? Because of the movement of the earth. You see? And so because we're not moving to keep up with the speed of it, when we try to move, then it creates distortion and perceptions. You see? All right. Now, let's go back here. So he says, verse 28 now. Okay, so verse 27 says, and the sun has therefore traversed the divisions of his orbit, and turns again to those divisions of his orbit, and enters that portal 30 mornings, and sets also in the west opposite to it. Verse 28, and on that night, as the night decreased in length by a ninth part, and the night has become 11 parts, and the day 7 parts, and the sun has returned and entered into the second portal in the east, and returns to those his divisions of his orbit for 30 mornings, rising and setting. Verse 30. And on that day, the night decreases in length, and the night amounts to 10 parts, and the day to 8. And on that day the sun rises from that portal, and sets in the west, and returns to the east, and rises in the third portal for 31 mornings. There we go again, 31. So you have 2 times where you have 30 days in the quarter, and then the last one is 31 days. Okay, keep that in mind now. You have 2 times in a quarter where you have a 30-day cycle, and the last cycle is 31 days. Keep that in mind. Now, we already saw what that 1 day is for. It says it is for the sign of the season. We remember that, right, family? Keep that in mind. Okay? Now, 31 mornings, and sets in the west of Shamayim. On that day, the night decreases and amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts, and the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly as to its days 364. Okay, so there are 364 days in a year. There are 364 days in a year. Not 365, right? So according to the scriptures, there are 364 days in a year. Now let's do the math real quick before we continue reading. Remember that in every quarter you have cycles of 2 30s. You have 2 30-day cycles, and the last one is 31 days, right? 2 30-day cycle, and then the last one is 31 days, and that last one marks the changing of the season. Tells you that now you're entering into a different portal, a different season. So each each quarter of the year has 91 days. 91 days. So what is 91 times 4? Because there are 4 quarters in the year. So 91 times 4 equals 364. 91 times 4 equals 364. That's why it says that there are 364 days in the year. 365 days is the Christian calendar, not Yahuah's calendar. Okay? So there are 364 days in the year, not 365. And 365 days on the Christian calendar is not even consistent, because they've had other numbers of days in the year in the past, you see. And this calendar, yes, and in a leap year it's different also. And this calendar that they're going by right now was calibrated back in the 1600s, where they had to knock off 10 years or whatever they had to knock off, you see. and before then they had to make changes. So calendars have been changed and messed with many times over the centuries, you see, and millennia. Calendars have been changed and messed with many times. And for that reason, you need to keep Yubalym, Jubilees chapter 6 and verse 34 in mind, and Dany'Al chapter 7 verses 23 through 26 in mind also. Let me just look at the question skipped by. Let me try to get back to it. Yeah, so that's okay. That's one of the things that I'll be getting at, Aki. So remember in Yubalym chapter 6 and verse 34, where Yahuwah talk about, and I'm going to read it again in a little bit, but where he talk about that we will be confused even concerning keeping up with the years. Okay, that's as a result of the curse. You see, that's as a result of being under the curses. So because there is so much confusion, there is no way, until Yahuwah makes it clear, there is no way of calculating the year of Yubalym, what they call the Jubilee years. You see, but we're going to see more of this as we dig deeper in the scriptures. Family, we're on a mission to dig. We're on a mission to dig. That's what we're doing today. I hope everybody brought their shovels, because that's what we're doing today. We're digging. And what we're looking for is the truth, okay? And so may Yahuwah reveal it. Now, praise Yahuwah. Okay, so now let's go back to the text. Let's go back to the text. All right, so now in verse 30, so we read verse 32. Verse 32 says, on that day the night decreases and amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts, and the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly as to its days 364. Verse 33, and the length of the day and of the night, and the shortness of the day and of the night arise. Through the course of the sun, these distinctions are made. They are separated, or they're made. These distinctions are made or separated. So it comes that its course becomes daily longer and its course nightly shorter. And this is the law and the course of the sun, and his return as often as he returns 60 times and rises. The great luminary, which is named the sun, for ever and ever. And that which thus rises is the great luminary, and is so named according to its appearance, according as Yahuwah commanded. As he rises, so he sets, and decreases not, and rests not. Listen to that now. So for the people who say that the sun go to sleep at night, for the flat earth people who in trying to explain their gibberical theory, I'm making up stuff for them. In trying to explain their gibberical theory, they say that the sun goes to sleep at night. And you know why they say that? When you say to them that, okay, if the earth is a disk, okay, if the earth is a disk and the sun is sitting on top of the disk, and the earth does not move, and the sun does not move, how do you explain darkness and light? They say, well, the sun go to sleep at night. Well, what does Yahuah's word say? I like that one, Aki. Yeah, Jesse is known for making up words. Yeah. Now, okay. So, this is what Yahuah's word says. As he rises, so he sets, and decreases not, and rest not. The sun does not rest. The sun does not go to sleep, but runs day and night. So why is it that we don't see it day and night? Because of the rotation, the way the earth turns, moves around the sun. That's why we don't see it day and night. That's why, because of the way the earth moves, that's why you have daytime in China at a different time than we have daytime over here. That's why in China, when we see the moon in one phase, they see it in the opposite phase, because at the same time of the year, because they're on the other side of the earth. Okay? Because of the way the earth is rotating. As he rises, so he sets, and decreases not, and rests not, but runs day and night, and his light is sevenfold brighter than that of the moon. But as regards size, they are both equal. Now, is that literally the case? No, but from the earth, again, from our perspective, they look equal. Okay, from our perspective, from where we stand, they look equal. Okay? All right. Now, we're going to go deeper, family. We're digging. We're going to go deeper. Let's go over to the book of Yubalym. We're going to go now to the book of Yubalym. Okay? And we're going to go to the book of Yubalym. I would start in chapter 5, but I think I'm going to start in chapter 6. Okay? For the sake of time. Yubalym, chapter 6. Let's find it. I have it somewhere here already. Yubalym chapter 6, yes. And we're going to back up to around verse 14. And I'm going to read a few things that get people in trouble because they don't understand. When the scriptures talk about forever and throughout your generations, they don't realize that Yahuwah is saying that as long as you are on the soil, as long as you are in the land. But because they see forever, they don't realize that the word that is translated forever actually literally means until something changes. And because they see forever, then they think that the command to keep the feast means no matter where you are, whether you're in a toilet, whether you're in a cesspool, whether you're in Baal's temple, no matter where you are, you better keep the feast there. That's their interpretation, and that's what they do. And Yahuwah is not satisfied with that. Yahuwah is not pleased with that, because his word, his command does not say that. You see, his command does not say that. Okay? His command does not say that. Now, I'm going to begin reading. Matter of fact, let's see. You know, I want to back up a little bit for the sake of some context. Again, talking about the land. I want to go to, because when Yahuwah, we pointed this out last week, but you can't say it enough because the deception and the false teachings are so rampant that you can't speak the truth enough. Okay? You got to keep saying it because our people are just deeply deceived by wrong teachings. Okay? Now, if I start in the book of Yubalym, I believe even in chapter 1, you know what? Let me jump over to chapter 1 real quick. Then we're going to come back to chapter 6. And we will, when we come to chapter 6, we're going to go to start at verse 12. But let me jump to chapter 1 here real quick in the book of Yubalym. This is what they call Jubilees. I think it's either chapter 1 or chapter 2 where it tells you that Jerusalem is the place where the feast is to be kept. Okay, I'm trying to remember exactly which chapter. I don't remember which one of them. Might be chapter 2. I don't remember. I'm trying to remember which one. I don't want to read the whole thing for the sake of time. I don't want to read the whole thing. You know what? I'm going to, bear with me, family, if you would. But I believe this is important. I'm going to read a little bit from the book here. I'm going to begin at chapter 1. I want to read a little bit because this is important. Okay? So the book of Yubalym. The book of Yubalym. What is the book about? The book of Yubalym. That's what they call Jubilees. This is the history of the division of the days of the law, the Torah. This is the history of the division of the days of the Torah and of the testimony of the events of the years, of their year, of their weeks or years, okay, of their Yubalym throughout all the years of the world. As Yahuwah spake to Moshe on Mount Sinai, when he went up to receive the tables of Torah and of the commandment according to the voice of Elohim, as he said unto him, go up to the top of the mountain. Okay, so that's what the book is about. The book of Yubalym is about the calendar of Yahuwah. The book of Yubalym is about the calendar of Yahuwah. That's what the book of Yubalym is about. And it came to pass in the first year of the Exodus of the children of Yasharal out of Mitzrayim in the 3rd month, on the 16th day of the month, that Elohim spake to Moshe, saying, come up to me on the mount, and I will give you 2 tables of stone of the Torah and of the command of the Debar, which I have written, that you may teach them. And Moshe went up into the mount of Elohim, and the esteem of Elohim abode on Mount Sinai, and the cloud overshadowed it 6 days. And he called to Moshe on the 7th day out of the midst of the cloud, and the appearance of the esteem of Yahuwah was like a flaming fire on the top of the mount. And Moshe was on the mount 40 days. And by the way, let me just say this, because there is also another teaching. So let me point out something here. There's also another teaching. Let me see. Do the math. What's 16 plus 7? 23, right? Let me go to the screen for a second. There's also another teaching that's confusing our people. Let me point it out here for a second, because people, they also use Moshe going up to the mountain to somehow prove their teaching, and it doesn't match. It doesn't fit. Okay? But there's another teaching called the lunar Sabbath teaching, the lunar Sabbath doctrine. Okay? I'm sure that many of us, if not all of us, are familiar. Excuse me. Many of us, if not all of us, are familiar. Okay? The lunar Sabbath doctrine. Okay? Now, one of the doctrines of the lunar Sabbatist, he's a lunatic. And if you look up the definition of lunatic, it means one who is in love with the moon, one who has become what's the word? Entranced by the moon. Okay, that's what lunatic really means. Okay, so one of the things that certain lunar Sabbatists use to prove their lunacy, to try to prove their lunacy, is to say that Masha went up on the mount and that the Torah was given to him on the Shabbat. And that is that cycle actually proves the lunar Sabbath. It says that he went up on the 16th day, right? He went up on the 16th day of the moon. Okay? Now, of course, they don't look at this as the 16th day of the moon. I don't think they do anyway. But he went up on the 16th day of the moon. Okay? He stayed up there for 7 days. On the seventh, he was there for 6 days. On the 7th day, Yahuwah gave him the instruction. 7 day. He went up on the 16th. So by the 7th day, this was the 23rd day. But yet the lunar Sabbath doctrine teaches that the Sabbaths are on, they have a few different teachings. One of them says that the Sabbath is the first day of the month, which they're going by the Gregorian calendar, by the way. That's the other lunacy. You ever notice that the lunar Sabbath doctrine goes by the Gregorian calendar? Their dates are fixed based on the Gregorian calendar. So, if their dates are fixed based on the Gregorian calendar, isn't that in itself a problem already? When the Gregorian calendar has 365 and a quarter days or 365 and a half days, and Yahuah's calendar has 364 days, right? But anyway, they're going by the Gregorian calendar, and what they say is that on the first day, now they have two different doctrines, what's the name among them? One of their calendar says that on the first day of the month, first day of January is the Sabbath, 7th day of January is the Sabbath, 14th day of January is the Sabbath, 21st day of January is the Sabbath, 28th day of January is the Sabbath. Okay, that's one of their doctrine. Another one of their doctrine says the 7th day of January is the Sabbath. They have about 3 of them actually. Another one says the 5th. Okay, so another one says the 7th day of January is the Sabbath. You could put any month in here. I'm just using January as an example because they're going by the Gregorian calendar. Okay, so another one says 7th day of January is the Sabbath, 15th day of January is the Sabbath, 22nd day of January is the Sabbath, 29th day of January is the Sabbath. Another one says the 1st day of January is the Sabbath, 8th day of January is the Sabbath, 15th day of January is the Sabbath, 22nd of January is the Sabbath, and 29th of January is the Sabbath. Okay? So you have 3 different calendars among them, among the lunar Sabbatists. And all of their calendars are based on the Gregorian calendar. Okay? And that is a problem all by itself. But I want to point out that one of the things they say is that Masha going up to receive the Torah on Mount Sinai is evidence of the lunar Sabbath. But if you're reading, it says that Masha went up on the 16th day of the moon, which they are not going by the 16th day of the moon really. They're going by the Gregorian calendar. So they claim they're going by the moon, but yet they're touting the calendar. Okay. But Moshe went up on the 16th day. Okay. And he received the Torah on the 23rd day. I don't find the 23rd day on any of their calculations as being the Sabbath. I don't find the 23rd day on any of their calculations as being the Sabbath. You see. So there is a problem there. Okay, I just want to point that out. All right, let's get back to the text. We're going to take a break here, family, in about 10 minutes, and then we're going to come back and hopefully get down to the meat of this. But I just want to read a little bit from Yubalym, chapter 1 here, and a few other parts from the text. So it says in verse 4, and Moshe was on the mount 40 days. Wait, I might have skipped ahead a little bit. In verse 2, and Moshe went up into the mount of Elohim, and the esteem of Elohim abode on Mount Sinai, and the cloud overshadowed it 6 days. And he called to Moshe on the 7th day out of the midst of the cloud, and the appearance of the esteem of Yahuwah was like a flaming fire on the top of the mount. And Moshe was on the mount 40 days and 40 nights, and Elohim taught him the earlier and the latter history of the division of all the days of the Torah and of the testimony. And he said, incline your heart to every word. By the way, pause. Let me point out verse 4 here for a second. What does verse 4 say again? And Moshe was on the mount 40 days and 40 nights. And Elohim taught him the earlier and later history of the division of all the days of the Torah and of the testimony. In other words, what you need to see here, family, is that Torah did not begin at Mount Sinai. There are people who believe and teach that Torah only was given at Mount Sinai, that Torah did not exist before Mount Sinai. But Torah existed ever since the beginning. Ever since the beginning. For as long as Yahuwah has existed, Torah has existed. Okay, so we got to understand that, right? Moshe was on the mount 40 days and 40 nights. And Elohim taught him the earlier and the later history of the division of all the days of the Torah and of the testimony. And he said, incline your heart to every word which I shall speak to you on this mount, and write them in a book, in order that their generations may see how I have not forsaken them, nor for all the evil which they have wrought in transgressing the contract which I established between me and you for their generations this day on Mount Sinai. And thus it will come to pass, when all these things come upon them, that they will recognize that I am more set apart than they in all their judgments and in all their actions, and they will recognize that I have been truly with them. And do you write for yourself all these words which I declare unto you this day, for I know their rebellion and their stiff neck, before I bring them into the land of which I swear to their fathers, to Abraham and to Yitzchak and to Yaakov, saying, unto your seed will I give a land flowing with milk and honey. And they will eat and be satisfied, and they will turn to strange mighty ones, the mighty ones which cannot deliver them. And they will eat from aught of their tribulation. And this witness shall be heard for a witness against them. For they will forget all my commandments, even all that I command them, and they will walk after the heathen, and after their uncleanness, and after their shame, and will serve their mighty ones. And these will prove unto them an offense, and a tribulation, and an affliction, and a snare. And many will perish, and they will be taken captive, and will fall into the hands of the enemy, because they have forsaken my ordinances and my commandments and the feast of my contract, and my Sabbaths, and my set apart place. You notice the appointed times is always associated with a time and a place. And my Sabbaths and my set apart place, which I have hallowed, which I have set apart, not hallowed, but which I have set apart for myself in their midst. And my tabernacle and my sanctuary, which I have set apart for myself in the midst of the land. In the midst of the land, the place in the place. The place in the place. He has set a place apart in the land for himself, that I should set my name upon it, and it should dwell there. That's where it will be. You see that, family? And they will make to themselves high places, and they will make to themselves high places and groves and graven images, and they will worship each his own graven image, so as to go astray, and they will sacrifice their children to demons and to all the works of the terror of their hearts. So what did he say? We're going to set up our own high places. When we go away from the place that Yahuwah has chosen, and we begin to determine that we can do this here and we can do that there, that is idolatry. That is where we have erected our own high places. Places of idolatry. Places of idolatry. You see, many people today, in America right now and around the world where our people are in this awakening, where they're going out and they're slaughtering in the wilderness, they're going and they're renting hotel rooms saying that they're keeping the feast, they're going and they're renting space in open fields, in community parks and community centers, saying that they're keeping the feast. According to Yahuwah, you have created your own high place. You are committing idolatry according to the word of Yahuwah. Yahuwah says that there is a place that I have chosen. Right here, we just read it. Yahuwah said that there is a place that I have, yes, and buying lamb chops. You see, Yahuwah says that there is a place that I have chosen. There is a place that I have chosen. I've even learned of the turkey Passover. Now they have turkey chop Passover. Not just lamb chop Passover. Now they have turkey chop Passover. You see. Yahuwah says that there is a place that I have chosen. Yahuwah warns us about doing our own thing in our own places. Setting up our own altars. Yahuwah says that he has an altar. The problem is that as a people, we have been driven out because of the curses. But Yahuwah is in the process of restoring his people and his place. Yeah, they might. Kosher pig. Wow. Amazing. Okay. So, and they will make to themselves high places and groves and graven images, and they will worship each his own graven image, as to go astray. And they will sacrifice their children to demons and to all the works of the error of their hearts. And I will send witnesses unto them. I will send witnesses unto them. To those of you out there who are doing this, who think that you're keeping the feast in captivity, in any place that you choose to build an altar, Yahuwah says, I will send witnesses unto them. This is a witness to you. Do not let it be a witness against you. And I will send witnesses unto them, that I may witness against them. But they will not hear, and will slay the witnesses also. And they will persecute those who seek the Torah, and they will abrogate and change everything so as to work evil before my eyes. And I will hide my face from them, and I will deliver them into the hand of the heathen for captivity, and for a prey, and for devouring. And I will remove them from the midst of the land, and I will scatter them amongst the heathen. So when Yasharal did that in the land, Yahuwah removed them from the land. Because even in the land, family, even in the land, Yahuwah was not going to the set apart place. They were erecting their own altars wherever they felt like in the land. So if they got in trouble, if our ancestors got in trouble while they were in the land for worshiping in places where Yahuwah did not appoint, how much more do you think we're going to be in trouble when we do it in a strange land? Listen, the people were in the land. They just wasn't going to the place. They weren't going to the appointed place. They figured they're going to do their sacrifices wherever they felt like and wherever they wanted to. And Yahuwah was displeased with them. Yahuwah called it idolatry. He said that you're erecting your own high places. You see. Yeah, but they'll need to rehearse it. That's what they'll say. Listen, that's making excuses for their idolatry. You do not need to rehearse what Yahuwah is going to bring back to us. You see, there's no thing in Scripture. There's not a single scripture that says that we must rehearse the feast in captivity and anywhere where we see fit. There's not a single scripture, not one, nada, zero. I promise you that there is not one single scripture. There is not a single text that says that you must rehearse the feast until Yahuwah comes. There is not one single text. Not one. Not one. I say there is zero. And I dare somebody to present one, because there is none. You see. No, the feast, every feast has an appointed place. Absolutely akut. Every feast has an appointed place. And we're going to get to it. We're only beginning. But we're going to get to that. This is just the beginning. Every feast has an appointed place. And that place is the place that Yahuwah has chosen according to his word. And he says that when we go, just like we're reading right now, when we go and we do this in some other place, we're creating high places. We're setting up high places. And we find that Yasharal got in trouble for that time and time again. Again, let me point this out. Imagine, Yasharal was doing it in the land. They were in the land, and they were in the land, but they weren't going to the place that Yahuwah appointed. And they got in trouble, and Yahuwah drove them out of the land. Imagine then, here it is that they're in the land, and Yahuwah still wasn't pleased, because just being in the land isn't enough. There is a certain place in the land that they need to be. You see, there is a certain place in the land that you must be. So even while they were in the land, Yahuwah was not pleased with them. And time again throughout his word, he warned them. That was one of the issues that Yahuwah had with Shalomah. Because Shalomah said that he was going to go keep the feast. But he was going to go do it where he wanted to do it. He went and he sent them to build an altar in some place. Not in the place that Yahuwah chose. Not in the place when he prayed to Yahuwah that Yahuwah agreed to. And Yahuwah said to Shalomah that what you're doing is idolatry. Shalomah said, but I'm keeping your feast. Yahuwah says it's idolatry. You see, that's the other misunderstanding that people have about Shalomah. They say that Shalomah got in trouble because he was worshiping the idols of his women. Not in every case. There were times when Shalomah was doing his worship in the name of Yahuwah. There were times when he was doing his sacrifices in the name of Yahuwah, but he was doing it according to his own heart and not according to the word of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah considered it to be idolatry. You see. So, going now back to the text here in the book of Yubalym. Yahuwah says, excuse me, and I will send witnesses unto them, that I may witness against them, but they will not hear, and will slay the witnesses also, and they will persecute those who speak the Torah, and they will abrogate, stop and change everything, so as to work evil before my eyes. And I will hide my face from them, and I will deliver them into the hand of the heathen for captivity, and for a prey, and for devouring. And I will remove them from the midst of the land of Yasharal. And I will scatter them among the heathen. And they will forget all my Torah and my commandments and all my judgments, and will go astray as to new moons and Sabbaths and feast and Jubileem and ordinances. So what's going to happen as a result of the curse, family? What's going to happen as a result of the curse? Here it is again. We just read it. We read it in the book of Chanuk. And they will forget all my, and we read it in the book of Dany'Al. We read it in the book of Dany'Al. Right? We read it in Yubalym chapter 6 verse 34, and we're going to get back to that. They will forget all my Torah and my commands and my judgments, and will go astray as to new moons, the Sabbaths, and feast, and Jubileem, and ordinances. And after this, they will turn to me from amongst the heathen with all their heart and with all their soul, and after all their being, and with all their strength. And I will gather them from among the heathen, and they will seek me, so that I shall be found of them, when they seek me with all their heart and with all their being. And I will disclose to them, watch this now, and I will disclose to them abounding peace with set apartness. So when we are regathered, Yahuwah is going to make known his ways to us once again in perfection. And I will disclose to them. How can you practice if you, listen, let me ask you this, family. When people are preparing for war, when you're preparing for something, or when you are having drills, right? If you're having a fire drill, now every action that you take, everything that they teach you in the drill is exactly what they want you to do when the real thing happens, right? Everything that you're taught in a rehearsal is exactly what you're going to do in the real thing, right? So how is it you're going to rehearse? How is it that you're going to rehearse falsehood and then expect to do truth when it's time to do truth? How can you rehearse falsehood and then do truth when it's time to do truth? In every rehearsal situation, what you're rehearsing is exactly what you will be doing when it's time to act. You see people, you hear people in the army who say that they went to war and the reason why they're alive is because their training kicked in. Their rehearsals kicked in. Because now they're in the live situation, because they have been practicing exactly what to do in such a situation, then what they have been practicing kicks in. So whatever you practice is what you're going to do. So why would Yahuwah have you rehearsing something that is not according to his word for the day when what he expects from you is something that is according to his word? You see. Yes. It makes no sense. There is not a single scripture anywhere that tells us to rehearse anything in captivity. Not one, I assure you. Not one. It's against the word of Yahuwah. Okay? And I will, so this is what Yahuwah is going to do when we're regathered. I will disclose to them abounding shalom with set apartness, and I will remove them the plant of unrighteousness, uprightness, and I will remove them the plant of uprightness with all my heart and with all my soul. Something's wrong there. And they shall be for a baraka and not a curse, not for a curse. And they shall be the head and not the tail. And I will build my sanctuary, my set apart place, my Haykal, and I will build my Haykal in their midst, and I will dwell with them, and I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people in truth and set apartness. So what is Yahuwah going to do when we're regathered? Oh, but I thought that the Haykal is no more important. That's what they say. They say we are the temple. Our bodies are the temple now. Our bodies are the Haykal. So if that's the case, why will Yahuwah need to rebuild his Haykal in your midst? If that's the case, why will the sacrifices be reestablished after the Haykal is rebuilt? If that's the case. Oh, my body is the temple now, so wherever I go, the temple is right there, so I can slaughter wherever I want to slaughter. That's not according to scripture. That's not according to truth, family. That's according to vain tradition. Lies of men that have been fed to us, given to us. You see. Yes, indeed, Aki. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So Yahuwah is going to reestablish his Haykal in our midst as he dwell with us. You see. Yes, made by his own hand. You see. Now there, that when he said, I will raise it up in 3 days, that's where Yahusha, speaking of his hanging and resurrection. Yeah, he's speaking there. You may be correct, Aki. Speaking of his hanging and resurrection. You see. So, you see, so let me put something in perspective. What Yahuwah says concerning this, the earth and the land, what Yahuwah shows us, the land that has been defiled. We read that this earth as we know it, because it's polluted, so during the millennial reign of Yahuwah, that's not where the Haykal of Yahuwah is established and the new earth established. The millennial reign of Yahuwah and his people on the earth is on this earth as it is. But there comes a time where this earth, this corrupted earth, will be destroyed. And a new Shamayim, a new Arats will be established. You see. And that's where in Katsun we read, and I Yahukanan saw a new Jerusalem coming down from Yahuwah Most High. You see. And so the new earth, paradise restored, so to speak, will not have any of this defiled mess that we now have. Because Yahuwah is going to do away with this defilement and the wicked, and all things will be made new. They will destroy this earth with a great heat and a great noise. Now, going back to returns, okay, no, wrong one, wrong text. Let me find where I need to be. All right, you know what? I'm going to finish reading chapter 1 here real quick. And then we're going to take a break and then we'll come back. But we have a lot more to cover. But by the time we get to the end of this, family, Yahuwah willing, we'll have an understanding of what Yahuwah's expectation is for us right now concerning his calendar. And we're going to let his words speak, right? So he says, and I will build my set-apart place in their midst, and I will dwell with them, and I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people in truth and set-apartness. And I will not forsake them nor fail them, for I am Yahuwah their Elohim. And Masha fell on his face and prayed and said, O Yahuwah my Elohim, do not forsake your people and your inheritance, so that they should wander in error in the error of their hearts, and do not deliver them into the hands of their enemies, the heathen, lest they should rule over them and cause them to transgress against you. Let your mercy, O Yahuwah, be lifted up upon your people, and create in them an upright spirit, and let not the spirit of Beliar rule over them, to accuse them before you, and to ensure and to ensnare them from all the paths of set-apartness, so that they may perish from before your face. But they are your people and your inheritance, which you have delivered with your great power from the hands of the Egyptians, the people of Matzrayim. Create in them a clean heart and a set-apart spirit, and let them not be ensnared in their transgressions from henceforth until eternity. Yahuwah said to Masha, check your mics from there, family. Just check your mic for me. Okay, I've got it. Not sure if there's another. Okay. Yeah, so he says, where am I at? Yahuwah said to Masha, verse 21, I know their contrariness and their thoughts and their stiff-neckedness, and they will not be obedient till they confess their own transgression and the transgression of their fathers. And after this they will turn to me in all uprightness and with all their heart and with all their soul, all their being, and I will circumcise the foreskin of their heart and the foreskin of their heart, the heart of their seed, and I will create in them a set-apart spirit. I will put in them the Ruach HaKodesh, and I will cleanse them, so that they shall not turn away from me from that day unto eternity. And their beings will cleave to me and to all my commandments, and they will fulfill my Dabar, and I will be their father, and they shall be my children. And okay, wait, baby. And they all shall be called children of the living Elohim, and every messenger and every spirit shall know, yea, they shall know that these are my children, and that I am their father in uprightness and straightness, and that I love them. And do write down for yourself all these words which I declare unto you on this mountain, the first and the last, which shall come to pass in all the divisions of the days in the Torah and in the testimony and in the weeks, years, and Yubalym unto eternity. Hey, stop. Until I descend and dwell with them throughout eternity. And he said to the messenger of the presence, write for Masha from the beginning of creation till my set-apart place has been built among them for all eternity. And Yahuwah will appear to the eyes of all. Shadi? Yahuwah will where am I at? Miss my place. And Yahuwah, verse 27. And Yahuwah will appear to the eyes of all, and all shall know that I am the Elohim of Yasharal, and the father of all the children of Yaakov, and the king on Mount Zion for all eternity. And Zion and Jerusalem shall be set apart. And the messenger of the presence, who went before the camp of Yasharal, took the tables of the divisions of the years from the time of the creation of the Torah and of the testimony of weeks of the Jubilees, according to the individual years, according to all the number of the Jubilees, according to the individual years, from the day of the new creation, when Shamayim and Arats shall be renewed, and all their creation, according to the powers of Shamayim, and according to all the creation of Arats, until the set apart place of Yahuwah shall be made in Jerusalem on Mount Zion, and all the luminaries be renewed for healing and for peace and for barakah for all the elect of Yasharal, and that thus it may be from that day and unto all the days of Arats. So he says that there is coming a time when he's going to do away with this defiled earth and defiled sanctuaries, and he's going to reestablish his sanctuary. And Yahukanan, in the book of Yahukanan, he says, and I, Yahukanan, saw a new Shamayim, new Arats, new Jerusalem, new Arats, new Shamayim. Jerusalem coming down as a bride prepared to meet her groom, so on and so forth. And Yahuah's Haykal comes from Shamayim with him and his people. And he is established in the new Arats, new earth. All right. Well, family, we're going to take a break here. We're going to take a break here, and then we're going to come back. Let me go to Aki Matatyahu. I see your flag there, Aki. Please go ahead, Aki.
Shabbat shalom, Mr. Kai.
Shabbat shalom to you, Aki.
Yeah, hey man. Ooh man, I tell you. When we get into the other books, man, I just tell you, man, that Yahuwah just be speaking to us, man, letting us know exactly what's what, man. I tell you, them devils, man, them wicked people, they know what they doing. They know exactly what they doing. They hide the truth from us, and Yahuwah has, from the beginning, Yahuwah already know who he's going to save, and us that are here right now, I mean, there's more of us scattered throughout. But Yahuwah just revealing and showing us exactly what his plans are from the beginning to the end.
Yes.
And I'm just overwhelmed with this lesson, man. It's just, I tell you, we get into the other books, and I just, hear for myself and read for myself is just a barakah to us all, man. I tell you.
Allahu Yahuwah. Indeed, Aki, indeed.
Yeah. And I just want to touch on one thing when we was talking about, as far as talking about the portholes of the sun, and I can contest to that, as far as the sun coming up and going down in certain cycles of the day.
Yeah.
Because I used to work in Saudi Arabia. Most of my adult life I worked overseas.
Mm-hmm.
I worked overseas more so than I did living in the States.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to work in Saudi Arabia for 12 years, and I could, our body is totally in sync with the atmosphere, with the coming and the going of the sun passing through.
Yes.
And the moon coming in, and it's just like when the sun is passing through and the moon coming, your body's already in sync. Yep, time to go to bed, time to go to sleep. There we go.
Yeah.
And and then when it comes around again, it's time to wake up. It's just that time, that biorhythm that we have, that allows us to be in sync with the coming and the going of the sun.
Indeed.
Get that false rising and all that. You know, gotta get that falseness out of our thinking.
Yes.
You know.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's a Barak key. It's a Barak.
Praise Yahuwah. Praise Father Aki, and to the for sharing and for attesting to those facts. Praise Yahuwah. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. The phones and TV, absolutely. Part of that artificial lighting that tricks our minds and bodies. Let me go to Aki Derek. Please go ahead, Aki.
Can I be heard?
Yes, you can. Nice and clear, Aki.
Shabbat Shalom, Mashpaka. Yeah, I had made a statement earlier that I had some Jehovah's Witnesses come by today. And yeah, I think they broke some fingernails trying to claw their way out of here. But I did stumble upon something that kind of threw me for a loop. I'd let them know initially that I came out of Christianity, and they stood back at a little bit of a shock and wanted to know why. And I started explaining it to them, and they weren't surprised by anything I was saying. They weren't surprised at all. They literally knew.
Yes.
And I'm sitting here and going, wait a minute. If you know the Tetragrammaton is pronounced Yahuwah, and then the guy stopped me and he says, well, no, we don't know that it's pronounced Yahuwah. I made the example about hallelujah. I said, wait a minute, you at least know Yah. You at least know that Yah isn't Jah. And yeah, he tap danced back a little bit and tried to regroup, and I stayed on him like, wait a minute, we really have to get to the meat and gristle of this. If you know, and you still supporting Jehovah's Witnesses, then you were walking in transgression. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And he says, well, he tried to justify it at that point. And literally, it was a calmness. There was a calmness that came over my ruach to just say, listen, listen. This is really what's going on. I don't want you to take my word for it. Go and study it for yourself. Go and study it for yourself. But you're sitting here and you're telling me that you know that Jesus is not Yahusha, but a Yahushua. You know this. So what are you going around talking about Jesus for? He said, well, we believe people can accept both names. I'm like, but that's a contradiction, that there's only one name given. And if there's only one name given, then you can't accept both names. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And we really got into it. But I was surprised at how calm that I was. And literally, when I got to asking them some of them questions, amazingly, a miracle happened that they didn't have any more time. Like, no, we gonna discuss this. We're gonna literally discuss this. You're gonna have to break some things down for me, because I started telling them about Yahuwah and Yahushua and Yahusha, and they were not surprised at all. They were nodding and, yep, we know about that. We know about that. And I was like, well, wait a minute. I asked them about the text that they used to supply themselves as Jehovah's Witnesses. I said, well, who was Yahuwah talking to when he gave that commandment that you will be my witnesses? Well, he was talking to Israel. I was like, yes, and the book is written by Hebrews to Hebrews. So where do you come in with you are now the witnesses? Well, now we are the spiritual Israel. I was like, that isn't supported. That isn't supported. You can't show me where that's supported at in Scripture. Well, that's our belief, and it's been that way for. I said, you mean traditions? Traditions. What Yahusha, what your Jesus was talking about when he was talking to the Pharisees, to traditions. That's what you mean. And he looked at me, and it was literally that looked like an animal that's been pushed into a corner. And that's when I backed off. I said, listen, just go ahead and do your studies. Go ahead and do your studies and come to these conclusions. But I made the conclusion myself that I had to come out of Christianity because it was full of poison, it was full of error, it was full of transgression, and I don't see you doing anything different in the Jehovah's Witness organization. Studying your past, studying false prophecy that was consistently made, and this whole Watchtower program that started off in error. You don't start off in error and then end up at a good point. A bad tree is going to produce bad fruit. A good tree is going to produce good fruit. And literally sitting down and talking with those guys, but I wanted to get your input on experiences with the Jehovah's Witnesses, because I've had these guys coming by for a while now, and I don't know. I think today was literally the point where they was like, no, we can't mess with that brother no more, because it seems like his eyes are finally open, and he literally gave us some things that we know that we're doing wrong, and we admitted to them. So like I said, I wanted to get your input on that, and I'll release the mic now.
Praise Yahuwah. Well, I've certainly had my experiences with the Jehovah Witnesses myself, and it's to the point where I believe now they have my house marked where they no longer come. But I remember a few years back, one came, a couple of them came. Of course, they travel in pairs. Couple of them came, and I began to talk to them about the name. Now, at that time when they came, because I was had experiences with them over the years, and they had their teachings changes. They adapt. You see, they adapt. They try to stay up to date, and they adapt. They're not for the sake and not for the purpose of finding truth, but for the purpose of manipulating people. So they adapt. They listen, and then they go and they tweak their doctrines. But it's still the same poison. It's just that they had a little sugar to it. They keep adding sugar. So they adapt. Yeah, and they study, but not for the purpose of truth. They study for the purpose of defending the lie, the error of the the Watchtower Society. You see, that's why they study. They're not studying in search of truth, but they're study. They study so that they can be equipped to defend the error. So they came, and I remember, in different occasions, different one would come. But this one time, one of the leaders came. He was a leader of one of their Kingdom Hall, and he came, and I was talking to him. I talked to him about the name, and so he said that, and I started talking to him about, talking about the name Jehovah, and I start breaking down Jehovah to him, what it actually means. Stop, even in modern day Hebrew, what it means, and I talked to him about different things about the language, and we got into a discussion about their belief, and he was here for about an hour and a half that day. He wouldn't leave. And so what he did was, the following week he asked me if he could bring somebody else higher up, if he could bring that person. I said, come on, bring them on over. So they came, and I got prepared for them, and they sat down, and I sat down with them, and I got my scriptures and some other sources, and I opened them up, and I had them for about 5 hours, and then they said they would come back, but they never came back. And ever since that day, none of them ever knocked on my door again. So but what I learned in the process of dealing with them is that they pay attention and they adapt. You see, they're aware of what's happening, and what they try to do is they try to make changes to trap the unsuspecting. So that's been my experience with them, Aki. So not surprised that they respond to you the way they did, and that they're familiar the way they are. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yes, indeed, they do. All right, Shop, I gotta put you down for 1 second, okay? All right. I believe that there is a point there is a point where you have to give individuals an opportunity, or people. You got to give people an opportunity. You don't just cut them off. It comes to that point. It comes a point. Hey, stop! It comes a point where you do not let. You have no fellowship with an individual once they have cut themselves off. In other words, you don't cut them off, but they have cut themselves off. Remember with Yahusha, there are people who the scribes and the Pharisees thought that he shouldn't be sitting with, shouldn't be eating with, that he shouldn't. It's no different him going into their house or them coming to his house. You see, they felt like he shouldn't have anything to do with them. You see, people of Yasharal felt like he shouldn't have anything to do with other people of Yasharal because those people weren't where they perceived themselves to be at. So, I believe that a person must show, because we are not Yahuwah, we don't know, we don't change anybody. We're called to sow seeds, right? And so once we have sown the seed, if they reject it and they show you that they are, absolutely totally against truth. I don't believe that every Jehovah's Witness you see walking around out there, that they just really don't want the truth. I believe that a lot of them are just plainly deceived, you see. And so you might have an opportunity to talk to them today. Aki Derek might have an opportunity to talk to one. Nothing, it might not seem as if anything happened today, but it was a seed that was sown. And who knows? Sometime down the road, because people of Yasharal are caught up in that thing. Those men who came to my house, I believe that they were men of Yasharal, that they were people of Yasharal, you see. But they're deceived, just like a lot of our people in church, you see. And so I let them cut themselves off when it becomes, it becomes clear. It becomes clear if we allow people to show themselves. It becomes clear who you just don't let in your house, But I don't believe that we have enough knowledge of the heart and of people to just cut them off without them showing, without them revealing themselves. Yahuwah shows us them through them. You see, Yahuwah shows us their hearts through them. But to just look at a person and say, no, you can't come in my house. As long as you're not coming in here outrightly disrespecting my house, and then in our conversation, I'll see where you are, you see. And that will determine as to whether or not you can continue to come to my house or not. But from the door, I don't just cut people off. Okay, let me go to Aki Delayahu. Please go ahead, Aki.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom to you, Aki.
Nice to hear you too, Aki. I'm gonna make this super quick. I just wanted to say I love my Master. I missed y'all for the past week. I'm glad we are here in attendance, each and every one of us. May Yahuwah continue to guide us and direct us and keep us in His mercy. To give us patience when we try to reveal things to the ones that are asleep and lost. Because, like I just said, we have to remember that we were once lost as they were. So sometimes we have to take that step back and really hold their hands a little bit, but don't be afraid to let it go and let them take a couple of steps on their own. I mean, we talked about that last week, Aki, and I've come to the conclusion that it's not their fault that they're asleep, but it's their fault when they hear the truth and reject it. So I guess that's just like Yep, Yahusha said, let those who have ears to hear what the word is saying, what the Ruach is saying. So in that essence, like you were saying, you just plant the seed, and sometimes it takes someone else to water it for it to take root and grow. We just do our parts. My question earlier, before this meeting was about Yaakov and Esau. 'Cause I was kind of confused about the service. The brothers that served the other brother, and I was kind of confused, like almost to the point where like, shouldn't we be Esau? But then I went in depth into it a little bit, and I found out what really happened, how we end up being at the bottom, and when it's going to turn around for us when Yahusha come back. So I'm clear that part. Then I trying to explain to my wife about who the Gentiles are, which I think I kind of confused her with that also, because it's like some of Yasharal are considered Gentiles also in a sort of say way, and that was about it. If you can touch up on that Gentile situation thing, so we can be clear with her. I appreciate it, Aki, and I'm released the mic.
Yes, indeed, Aki. And again, there is a video, I think Aki Derek just mentioned. There is a video on YouTube on the subject of the Gentiles, Aki. I don't have the link right. Let me see if I can find the link. I'd encourage you to watch it. The word Gentile in translation, it's used to confuse us, as the way that it's used in translation. The translators really should have done a better job. Rather than using the word Gentiles, there should be distinction made between the people of Yasharal and the other nations. And so a better word for the other nations would be heathen. And Gentiles, Goyim comes from Goyim, which comes from Gu, which means, excuse me, give him that tone for me, which comes from Gu, which is to be put away, put behind, divorced. And so, for example, when you read in certain text where you see it says Gentile, it's actually speaking about Yasharal, and not the other nations. And so the way that it's used in translation creates a lot of confusion. But I'd encourage you, it'd be better if you watch the video because it goes into more detail, Aki. So that should help if you take a look at that video. And then after you've watched it, if you have any other question arise, let me know, and then I'll go from there, because it's quite a subject, quite a broad subject, and so I want to make sure that you get as much information as possible instead of me just trying to chunk it up right now. So, to the family for posting the link. All right. Okay. And again, Aki, we love you also, and to the for your expression there, Aki, of love for the family, and been missing you guys also, been looking forward to being here, and so we give Yahuwah praise. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a break here. Going back to Akut al-Yashaba, so concerning again, bringing them in the house, there comes a point, even, and it's not the scriptures, that was just a letter where I believe it was Yahukanan that talked about that, not even not eating with them, not even allowing them to come into your house. But a person has to get to that point, you see, of basically revealing themselves. So simply because a person is an unbeliever, it don't mean that they can't come into your house, or you shouldn't allow them to come into your house, you see. But there comes a point where you got to know when to, if a cutting off needs to be, then you got to know when to, as Aki said, let go of their hand, Again, I'm going to go back to the situation with Yahusha, because of a lack of understanding of that, people in Yasharal felt like he shouldn't be associating, eating with, or going to the houses of certain people because they weren't there. They weren't believing upon Yahuwah the way they should be, in the way they should be, and they believed that he should just have nothing to do with them. And he told them differently. And the same is true for us. So again, we've got to give people an opportunity to show themselves. Now, concerning that situation, even also, when they came over, it was winter time. I wasn't going to stand on the step for 5 hours with them. Wasn't going to take my computer and my books out there and stand on the step with them. So it was appropriate for me to invite them in and to sit down and to go through the scriptures with them. You see, again, I see them. They see me as somebody who needs to be saved. I see them as someone who is deceived, needing to come to a knowledge of the truth, you see. And so, I believe that, again, it's a matter of when somebody have got taken you to the point, shown you that, okay, this is what I am, this is what I'm about, then, and it goes contrary to your way and to your bayat, then that's where it's a cutting off. But from the door, I don't believe you just cut them off. Essentially, that's what you do, in doing so. And that's how the people responded to Yahusha when, for example, he went into the house of they say Nicodemus, not exactly his name. And they had issues when the people of Yasharal saw him in there with Nicodemus. And he said, what is he doing in his house? That man is a sinner. He's a tax collector. Yeah. Shouldn't be eating with him. Shouldn't be under his roof. So, yeah. Praise Father Akut. There was a question earlier about how do we know the correct day of Shabbat since has been a change in the calendar. Yeah, that's a great question, family. That's a great question. So, when I talk with people, when that question come up, I explain to people that I cannot stand here, sit here, or whatever, and say to anybody with any definite conclusion that I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that this day is the Shabbat day. So what makes me settle on this day right now? Well, what makes me settle on this day right now is based upon my research. What I find when you research Christian history, one of the things you find as you study Christian history is that they have always referred to the Sabbath as the seventh day. And they have always referred to Sunday as the first day, at least going back to the Council of Nicaea. Okay? At least going back to the Council of Nicaea. When you research Christian history, you find that they refer to the seventh day as Saturday. Okay? You find that they refer to the seventh day as Saturday and to the first day as Sunday. That's what they did. They changed the names of days. Okay? And so based on, now they're the ones who declared that the first day, which would they name Sunday, is to be the Sabbath. And no longer the seventh day, which is Saturday. They said that. They wrote that, you see. So when I look at what they've written in their writings, now again, keep in mind that they're the ones who say no longer the seventh day, known as Saturday, is to be the Sabbath. But Sunday, the first day, is to be the Sabbath. The first day, which we're going to name Sunday, is to be the Sabbath. So looking at their history, I see where they, at least in their writings, they used to call what they call Saturday, they call it the seventh day also. And what they call Sunday, they call it the first day also. You see. So taking that from their records, that's why I settle on this based on the evidence that I have available to me. Some people choose to say, well, I don't know for sure, so I'm not going to say that that day is the Sabbath. I'm just going to make another day. No, I can't do that. And nobody should do that. You've got to go with the evidence available to you right now. Maybe later on that Yahuwah revealed to us that no, this is not it at all. You see, but we've got to wait for the evidence. For now, we just got to go with the evidence that we have. You see. And so I've got to go with the evidence that I have right now. It would be foolish of me to just pick a day out of the air, you know. It wouldn't be wise. So yes, the Shabbat day is a feast day. Yes, indeed, Akut. The Shabbat day is a feast day. So there are only 4 feast days. We've been told that there are 7 feast days through religion and customs of men. But according to the scriptures, there are only 4 feast days. Okay? You have the Passover or the remembrance, right? Feast of Unleavened Bread. You have the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is the Passover renamed. Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is a 7-day feast. Passover is a 1-day feast. Okay? That we don't keep the Passover anymore. We keep the remembrance of Passover. That's what we're commanded to keep, the remembrance. Not rehearsal, remembrance. Okay? When we're able to keep it. And that's in the land, in the appointed place. But we have the Passover. You have the Feast of Unleavened Bread. You have Shabbat, and you have Tabernacles. Okay? And then you have Shabbat. Those are the 4 feasts. 3 of them are annual feasts, and 1 is a weekly feast. The others are appointed times. Okay, appointed days. Every Muadim is an appointed time, or every Mu'ad is an appointed time, but not every appointed time or not every Mu'ad is a feast. Okay? So you have appointed times that are days of fasting, days of blowing, sounding of the trumpet, and so on. Not the same as a feast day. You see, they're appointed days, but not feast days. Okay? Yes. Yes, feast means we eat a lot of good food. That's right. Yes, celebrate and be thankful to Yahuwah. That's what the feast is all about. And retell the goodness of Yahuwah. Give praise to Yahuwah. That's what feast is all about. Oh, no. Not a problem, Akut. Not a problem. So even with the sounding of the shofar, the sounding, when Yahuwah gave the instruction, the sounding was to be in a certain place. So what we do is, and what we have done is, where time allow at these appointed times, we assemble, family, but not thinking that we're doing anything as far as actually keeping, because according to the instructions, we can't. But there's nothing wrong with assembling. We see when we study the scriptures that when our people are scattered into captivity, they still assembled, but they knew they weren't keeping the feast, but they assembled. You see, they came together to give esteem to Yahuwah, and in longing to be returned to their land. That's what Tahalim, Psalms 137 is about. You know, by the rivers of Babylon, where we sat down, there we wept when we remember Zion. While the wicked carry us away into captivity, they require of us a song. But how can we sing Yahuwah's song in a strange land? How can we have a feast in a strange land? How can we be dancing and prancing and acting like everything is good and right in a strange land? Feasting is about shalom. Feast is about things being good, things being in order. You see. And so he says in the same Psalms, it says, "Lest I forget you, O Jerusalem, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth." So lest I think that I'm going to go over here and I'm going to party, I'm going to feast here in captivity and forget about Jerusalem, he said, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. You see, same situation. That's the situation we're in. That's what our people were in. So they came together. They sat by the rivers of Babylon at the appointed times, longing to be home when they can feast and where they can keep the appointed times of Yahuwah. But right now we assemble, looking and longing to be restored. You see. No, trumpet is not a feast. They call it a feast, but it's not a feast. It's just an appointed time. It's an appointed time of the blowing of the ram's horn. You see, it's not a feast. They call it Feast of Trumpets. That's what religion call everything a feast. You see, that's the thing with religion. They're feasting when they should be fasting. You see, you know, but it's not a feast. You know, and so many things they call feast are not feast. Day of Atonement, they call it Feast of Atonement. You see, not a feast. Just an appointed time. Yes, indeed. It's an appointed time. All right. Well, we're going to take a break, Mashpaka. And then when we come back, we'll return to the book of Yubalym. We have still a lot more to go, a lot more to cover. But I just wanted to read from the beginning of the book there to give us a sense of context and history.
Real quick, Aki.
Yes, go ahead, Aki.
Yeah, just comment, on what you were saying, well, what we was reading on Chanuk 72, how Yahuwah said that how everything will be turned over to the heathen, and then he'll just what can I say, trample over his Torah, just turn everything over into their hands, how they twisted up everything. That's why we so discombobulated as under trying to understand, the feast, the appointed times, the Shabbat, keeping Torah, is because Yahuwah has turned all that belongs to us over to the heathen.
Yes.
And so that's why we so, bent out of shape, disorder and so forth like that. That's we got to keep that stuff in mind, Mr. Haykal. We got to understand, when Key is reading these things to us, we have to, really be on point and focus and zoom in on what the word, when he is speaking, when our key Michael is speaking to us. I mean, we got to have the Ruach really dial in on us and listen to what is being said to us, so we can see why we have the confusion, and see why things are so out of whack with us as a nation of people. And then we can understand that you understand why the disorder is the way it is. I mean, just reading in Jubilees chapter 1, it was spelled out to us right there. It was spelled out to us right there. I'm off the mic, Aki.
Praise Father. Yes, indeed, Aki. So true, so true. True indeed. And family, Yahuwah's word, not a single line is wasted. Yahuwah don't just talk just for talking. And it is really important that we ask him, to open up our ears, our eyes, and our understanding to what is being stated, because it is absolutely, what he's saying is absolutely necessary. It's not by coincidence or by mistake that I started where I started today, when I went to Yubalym chapter 6 verse 34 and to Dany'Al chapter 7 beginning at verse 23. It's not by coincidence why I started there. And that's basically the same point that Aki is bringing out. So, Yahuwah says, let those who have a ear to ear, let them hear what the Ruach is saying to the assembly. So as Yahuwah is speaking, may his people hear his word, because that's what's going to tear down the confusion. Praise Yahuwah. To the Aki for sharing. Let me go to Aki Dela Yahu. Please go ahead, Aki. Aki,
It's gonna be real quick. I had a little question. It's funny that you brought up the shofar, and I was wondering because I was looking into buying me one, and ordering me a shofar. And I was thinking, is there a difference between or a restriction or whether or not I need to get a Kudamite horn or a traditional ram's horn? Does that make a difference? And also, are we allowed? I mean, are we supposed to blow it at every Shabbat or not? Basically, is what my question boils down to. Does the Kudamite horn or the ram's horn matter? Actually, to be honest, I prefer the sound of the Kudamite, but also more importantly, are we to blow it on the Sabbath or is it only for specific times of the year? That is my
praise Yahuwah. That's a great question, Aki, and for the sake of time, I'm not going to turn to the scriptures on it right now, but I'll say this, that the ram's horn and the shofar, that they're very important instruments for Yahusha. They're instruments of praise, instruments of war, instruments of for the lack of a better word right now, let me put it this way, instruments of crowning. Let me say that again. Instruments of praise, instruments of war, instruments of crowning, and instrument of calling. Okay? Instrument of praise, instrument of war, instruments of crowning, instruments of calling. Right? So, as an instrument of praise, I believe that the shofar can be used at any time, as an instrument of praise. And praise is warfare. Praise is warfare. Because when you praise, it's an attack on the enemy. You see? It's an attack on the enemy, and at the same time, it's giving esteem to Yahuwah, the one who fights for us. The enemy don't like when we praise, you see, because our praise is a cry to our warrior. You see, our praise is a cry and a call to our warrior, whether it be that of esteem or a cry for help. And the enemy don't like neither one. The enemy wants our praise to be his. He wants us to praise him. He don't want us to praise Yahuwah. And I believe that we can praise Yahuwah anytime, you see, and no matter where we are, we can praise Yahuwah. And so in that sense, the shofar and the ram's horn can be used. Now, there are instances in the scriptures where the ram's horn is used, but in most instances, both are used. Both are used. And so, the ram's horn, there are instructions given. Certain ram's horn were to be decorated certain ways, and they were to be used at certain times, you see. And so, there's definitely instances where different ones are used, but both can be used. Even on Shabbat, both are used, So, to answer the question, Aki, it's not just on Shabbat that you can sound your shofar, sound the ram's horn. But I believe as an instrument of praise, an instrument of warfare, because when you study the scriptures, that's what you see also. When Yahusha went into battle, the ram's horn went before them, the shofar went before them, you see. Praise went before them. And so, as an instrument of praise, you see, it can be used anytime. But of course, it has its purposes for different events. It calls people to assembly. It's a call to assembly. It is used when in the crowning of kings and of prophets and so on. It is used during marriage ceremonies. So it's a very integral part of life in Yahusha. So I don't believe it's necessarily limited. It has its different functions and purposes, but you don't have to wait for a particular time to use it, even though it have a particular times when you use it also. I hope that I answer the question, Aki. All right. Okay. If there are no other comments on this side of the break, you're welcome, Daki. If there are no other questions, then we will take a break at this time. I'm gonna stop the recording. I'm gonna stop the live stream on Facebook and on Fuse, and not on Fuse, on YouTube. But I will see you on the other side of the break, Mashpaka. When we come back, we're going to continue in our study on Yahuah's calendar revisited. It is my hope that to this point, what we have covered so far has been a baraka to you. We still have a lot more to cover. When it comes to the subject of the calendar, we really have just barely scratched the surface. But we hope to cover some more today. So after the break, we'll come back, and I'll see you after the break. All right? Shabbat Shalom.